Call this meeting to order. If you could all stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see a full house. Happy summer to everyone. We will get started here and jump right into recognition for spring athletics.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Aaron Moan, our newly appointed Assistant Activities Director, to come on up, and he'll be running through the agenda with the various athletic reports for spring athletics. Another successful spring, correct, Aaron?
Yes, thank you for having us in. I think it's important, as you guys are well aware, to recognize all the hard work and effort and time that these athletes and coaches are putting into their respective sports. And spring, it sometimes gets so rushed through and everybody's looking for summer breaks, so I think it's great to bring them in and recognize them. So thank you for having us. A couple things to recognize before we start bringing the teams up. I'm not going to talk through all of them, but just a congratulations to those student athletes that are focusing highly on their academics as well as the athletics and have been recognized for their top seniors in GPA for their sports. So there's 7 of those for the spring. And then moving down, the athletes that are getting an opportunity to play at the next level in their respective sport, and that's all fall, winter, and spring. So we have another good list of some athletes that get to go on and have that type of opportunity in college. On the next page, we got some key highlights. We had a Freshman of the Year in Wisconsin State Swimming, which was voted on. The award was given to Shane Blinkman, so that's a wonderful accomplishment for Shane. Moving down, the boys hockey team made it to the state tournament, as many are aware, and had a successful season, but were honored with the honorable mention in sportsmanship this year for the boys hockey tournament, which is a great thing to be mentioned for. The third one, Mark Johnson, has been named to the first ever USTA junior leadership team. So he's among 30 players nationwide to be named to that team. So that's an outstanding accomplishment. And the last one on there, we have a group of 3 hockey players that competed in the Toyota USA Hockey National Championships at the end of March and early April in San Jose, and had a wonderful opportunity out there. So just a couple highlights of things that our opportunities have helped these student athletes reach out beyond our school buildings. So it's kind of cool to hear about. Baseball, I don't believe any players showed up yet. So insert the assistant coach. We had a kind of an up and down year. We were in the running for conference lead quite a few times, and then back down a little bit and then back up. So there was plenty of learning experiences for us, but we still finished 3rd place in the conference. Unfortunately, our season ended a bit short in the first round of the playoffs, but those types of experiences are things that we can apply in many other areas to try and do a lot better next time. So the baseball season, wins and losses, not necessarily successful or where we want it to be, but as we all know, it's not all about wins and losses. So there's many things that we're able to apply from that season. Boys golf, did anybody make it out? Okay, we will make it right down to softball then.
Thank you for having us tonight. We had a great season this year, one that our team is extremely proud of, and I hope our district is as well. We've done some things that haven't been done here in Hudson in a long time in softball, and the girls will share some of that. Early in the season, I challenged them to be that team, and we wanted to be that team that people talked about, that did accomplish goals that we had set for ourselves, including some amazing feats that they pulled off, and they really stepped up to the plate this year through their hard work and their effort, and I want them to kind of share some of our accomplishments, but I'll finish up at the end.
Okay, hi, I'm McKenna Palm. So some of our highlights from this year, we led the conference in 28 home runs. We ended Chippewa Falls' 83-0 game winning streak, and that dated back to 2009. We were also conference co-champs for the first time since 1992. regional champs, and we were sectional finalists. And looking through the records, we found that that has never really been done before for Hudson softball. And we lost our sectional final game to the 2016 state champion, and they have been state champions 8 times in the past 15 years. So it was a okay loss.
Yeah, some of those accomplishments were pretty amazing. As a group of young girls I had, we started a bunch of young girls as well as our seniors who really contributed. We, like she said, lost to the sectional final game, but it was something to be really proud of. For us to be that team that showed up, you could tell a team who's been there many, many times and a team who hasn't. And now we've become that team that in the future will show up with that same expectation to beat the teams we play. We had 8 girls out of our lineup, out of our 16 that were mentioned, honorable mention, first team or second team all conference. I also found out tonight that Jordan Little and Angela Hupfel were also listed as all regional, and we're waiting to hear back from the all-state committee where they made all-state as well. You know, we became that team that, you know, in the past we used to show up to games hoping to win them. But our culture has changed this past year, and now we have this culture of expecting to win when we show up. And it's something that comes from the hard work and the effort of all the girls. I always tell everybody I'm along for the ride. I got asked what my coaching record was and to put on some documents for the state tournament if we made it there. I had no idea. It's never crossed my mind to know what my record is. But it's all been about them the whole time, and I kind of got a great seat. I just kind of sit back and watch them do amazing things. You know, I just want to finish with, you know, next year we're really miss our seniors and our leadership. This has been a team that's bonded like no other team, and we'll miss them greatly. But we have a great future here, and we're looking forward to the next few years in Hudson softball and continue to work with our boosters. And we've formed a partnership. We made some great field improvements this year. If you haven't been down to Field 5, you should stop by and check it out. It's looking really nice. And I want to congratulate my girls one more time.
Girls soccer.
Thanks very much for having us. I'm John Knutson. I'm the varsity head coach, and I've got 3 of our captains here that are going to tell you a little bit about the season, and then I'll wrap it up.
Hi, I'm Maddie Haynes, and this year our team theme was Relentless. We chose this theme because it matched the feeling of how we wanted to play. Some offensive stats on the year. We had 432 shots on the year and outshot opponents on average by a 3-1 margin. We scored 63 goals on the year and only allowed 24, so we outscored opponents by a margin of 2.6 goals to 1 per game. One of the things our team focused on was not giving up corner kicks to opponents, which are an opportunity for them to score on a set play. This year we took 122 corner kicks and we only gave up 37.
My name is Karin Chuckle, and this year our season record was 9-2-1 in Big Rivers Conference. We were 2-1-1 in non-conference games and 1-1 in WIAA regional playoffs, for an overall record of 12-4-1 on the year. Our year ended with a loss to the WIAA regional final in the regional finals game to Eau Claire Memorial, who continued to be #1 ranked team in the state. The only team we have lost to in Big Rivers Conference play in the last 3 years has been Eau Claire Memorial.
Hi, my name's Jordan Helterbrand. We had our annual team building day at YMCA Camp St. Croix again this year. We held it on the Saturday following our first team's practice, and it's always fun to work with all our players, where we have the opportunity to work together both physically and mentally to find solutions to challenges placed in front of us, just like we have to on the field against opponents. We also did bonfires and sleepovers where all of the girls would get together just to have fun. I think it was a successful year because even though we lost 9 seniors last year, we still had an incredible
incredibly strong bond and finished with just about the same record as we have in the past, even with the young team.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the school board for your service to the district and what you folks do to support our athletic team. So if we could all give them a round of applause, that would be great. So thank you very much. The administration, along with the athletic department, Stephanie DeVos, Jane Branson, and Sarah in the athletic office have been terrific to work with and very supportive for us. For a few individual accolades, our leading goal scorers this year was Maddie Haynes with 17 goals and 4 assists on the year, followed by Jordan Helterbrand, another captain here with 15 goals and 2 assists, and Karin, our third captain, showing you that they all led by example. As a starting goalkeeper since her freshman year, Karin had 9 shutouts this year. Out of 18 games, 50% shutouts is not a bad ratio, so it was very well done. We had 6 players chosen for all conference, and the fact that regionals and sectionals are done, I can announce that. These players don't know this. We had 2 acknowledged as first team all conference. That would be Amanda Carey and Maddie Haynes. Second team all conference is Captain Jordan Helterbrand and Captain Karin Chuckle and Taylor Brinkman. And 1 honorable mention was Emma Richard. One of our players, senior players, Amanda Carey, will be playing Division II soccer for the Golden Bears of Concordia next year. So we only had 3 seniors, so as a relatively young team this year, we look forward to things in the future for Hudson Raider soccer. Thanks for your support.
So we finished with a 18-4 record. We were runner-up in the BRC. All 10 players advanced out of subsectionals to sectionals, which is the first team that I've been on to do that. For the 6th consecutive season, we finished runner-up in the sectional. Oh, and then that's you.
It is unusual to advance all 10 players out of the subsectional to the sectional. What is not unusual is for Mark Johnson to participate in the state tournament. For the 4th straight season, he advanced to Madison, and I believe he's the first player in the history of the school to do that in tennis. As a sophomore and a junior, he earned 2nd team All-State honors, and this year he capped off a stellar career, earning 1st team All-State honors by finishing in the top 8 in Madison. That was quite a feat. So overall, a great season for the boys, highlighted by probably the best overall season an individual has had in the history of the school with Mark. So, thanks.
Jerry, you could tell track, boys track, and I have Sam Welch with us here tonight. I just want to say something about Sam. Sam, this was Sam's first year out for track, and he was a heck of a football player, but he blew his knee out during football this year and didn't get a chance to play, and convinced him to come out for track, and he made it to the state track meet and did a fantastic job. So he's our speaker for tonight.
Hi, I'm Sam Welch, and I guess I'd just like to say how just an amazing season it was, and I didn't do track at all for 4 years, and my last year I decided to do it, and I was just surprised at how well organized everything was and how everyone just got down to business when it came time to. That was really not expected, and everyone just worked really hard, and we had a lot of people qualify for the state tournament, which Dylan took 3rd and Ty took 7th, and I myself took 19th. And it was just a really fun experience to be able to work with Mr. Yucatel and Coach Vanden Heuvel. And I wish I could have done it earlier, but I'm planning on doing it. I'm going to Stout next year, so I talked to their coach, and I'm planning on doing it there. But it was just a really fun experience.
Awesome. I guess I'll just say that we had a great season, another great season. We've been pretty successful, and with the guys won the conference championship again and the regionals, and we had some great kids, and we continue to do that, and it's a testament to the school district.
I'm Annika Kling. This year we had a very successful year. On the girls' side, we were undefeated the whole season until sectionals were runner-up. Along the way, we broke many school records in different events, and then we also brought 10 girls to state, with 5 of them making the top 4, and then 1 of them placing first.
Hi, I'm Maddie. Throughout the season, we were able to go really, really close with each other, and we had a lot of fun at practice and at meets, and it was definitely an incredible season to end on.
I'm Jamie Hollum, and I'm the head girls coach, and these girls are very humble. At conference this year, we were all conference in all of 18 events. We made it to state in 7 out of the 18 events. The girls themselves are a pleasure to coach. They are a very incredible group of young ladies, and it made our job as coaches really easy this year. I told these guys there were definitely ups and downs during the season, including the state meet. And I told these guys that it's definitely easier to win. Winning is the easiest thing by far to do. You win and you've got there. What you learn from losing along the way or something not happening the way you wanted is what really makes the team come together. And watching the girls come together at state made me actually cry at our team meeting, which doesn't happen too often. See, they laugh back there. But I'm just couldn't be more proud of them, and that's what I hope that they can take out of this sport. Maddie also didn't mention when she was up here that she is our state champion in the triple jump. She is probably the most humble of all 8 of the 10 girls here tonight. So congratulations to Maddie, and I'd just like to thank all of you for supporting sport athletics in Hudson. And I'd also like to, one last note, thank Jerry Yucatil for all of his years of service as a teacher, and know that he will continue coaching us as part of our track program. Thank you very much.
So yes, thank you one more time for having us out here and providing the opportunity. If you scroll down one more time, just a quick highlight. The colored squares on there note any first, second, or third place finish in the conference in the last 4 years. So as we can see in a quick snapshot, there's a lot of color up there, which is good. So we are being successful in our win-loss column. But as you hear the students talking about their experiences, it's more than just those colors. And then the next slide is just the participation numbers. We had 1,100 total participants this past year, and to carry out that type of a program takes a lot of work by the student athletes, coaches, and administration. So let's one more time just give them a round of applause for coming out here and having a great season.
Any comments from the board?
Mr. Vice President?
Yes, sir.
You know, I was coming in and I passed Mr. Moen and a group of students who apparently volunteered to sing the school song. Any takers? On that note, you know, we do this after every season, and I sound like probably a broken record, but it just amazes me what our students do. You know, they spend all their time excelling in education, and then to go and be not only proficient, but excel in all of the sports that you all do, and not to mention all the other community activities and everything else. It's just amazing to me, the success and the pride that our community has. And so thank you all for successful seasons and everything that you do.
Mr. President,
Sue?
I am, now that I'm on the board, I always look at the section in the paper about sports because I feel like I better be informed as much as I am about the arts. But anyway, I'm excited for the wins that we got to hear tonight, and I celebrate those that have done so well. But I also like the culture and values that some of you talked about tonight, such as the bonding in the groups and looking at the future and partnerships and strengthening the physical as well as the mental challenges. And I also like the comment about losing sometimes helps you come together. And I also think Relentless could be an album title, maybe, for your group. I don't know. Thank you.
Anyone else? Just want to close then with saying thank you very much to all the students, the coaches, the administration, everyone that participates in making Hudson successful. It really is impressive to see the results that we have pumped out of this community, and it's really proud for our community to get behind you, and just to even see the folks come in tonight dressed up, proud of where you're at, proud of where you're going. So continue to hang your head high and go on, prosper. Thanks. We'll move to the next item on the agenda this evening then. Destination Imagination Global Finals.
Thank you. I'm going to ask our participants in the national globals to come on up and kind of make a row behind us here. I'll give a little summary while they're getting set up. We start with 29 teams. This year we started with 29 teams that competed at Regional Destination Imagination Competition in March at Baldwin High School. So several months prior, they've been working on their Destination Imagination competitions, a creative problem-solving competition. From there, 14, so 29 to 14, so just about 50%, went on to state competition on April 16th. And from there, 6 went to globals in Knoxville I think it's May 24th to 28th, if I've got the right. So we've got 6 teams that made it to nationals. We have 4 Girls in a Fandom and the Duct Tapenators, if I'm saying those right. 2 elementary teams. The Dream Team is a middle school team. Hudson Scratch, Hidden Below the Surface, and Lost Tom, our high school team. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We have representatives of the 6 teams because of lots of conflicts right now, which many of you are aware of. We weren't able to get all members of all 6 teams. So who's going to start? Which end? And if you can, either share a little bit about what you did and or what's a highlight of globals going to Knoxville. What was a highlight? And if you move the mic down so you're talking right into there, you go.
All right. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about a little bit about my team's challenge. Out of all the challenges, we chose the challenge C, which is get a clue, and we had to write and create a mystery story. And one of the aspects was we would have 3 different endings that we would have to perform, and we wouldn't know which ending until during our play we would pick a random one. And so it was really, really interesting to create, like as a team. It was super fun, and we had to have different aspects like to create this mystery story. So we had to create, for our time period, we had to have a team chosen time period. We chose the 1860s because it was very innovative. We created a working telegraph. We created a music box, and we created a Techniclue, which would help us find out who the suspect was at the end. And it was basically a machine that would sift soil and use chemicals to figure out like which person it was at the end. And that was one of like it was incredible that we were able to create all these things and like create this story. And I think that was probably overall the highlight of the year, was just like working together as a team. And the Global Finals is really an amazing thing to go to. It's spectacular. Thanks.
Can you tell us your name and which team you were on?
Oh yeah, sorry. My name's Grace Kazak, and I'm on the team Lost Tom.
Hi. I'm gonna attempt to lower this. I don't know if you can hear me. Am I talking loud enough? I don't really know. Come closer. Is that good? Okay. I'm Emily Schlepp. I'm on Lost Tom, and I'm going to talk about just kind of like, excuse me, how strong of a program that we have and how cool it's been. I know on our team, we're in 11th grade, and some people on our team or I guess we're going to be seniors, so. Some people on our team, we've been on there for 8 years or longer, so we've been in this a very long time, and we've always had, since we've had such a strong program here in Hudson, we've always had a lot of really strong teams to look up to, and it's really cool that like we're kind of in that place now, and I think it just kind of goes to show how like such a cool thing it is to have such a strong program, because you have the younger teams who get to look up to the older ones and kind of be inspired and also do great things. And I think we owe a lot of our success to the fact that we had all these great teams to look up to, and we've had teams tell us that they look up to us, and that's such a wild thing. And I think it just kind of goes to show how wonderful the program is in Hudson and hopefully the circle can keep going and we can keep having inspiration to be great. So that's what I have to say.
Very good.
I'm Abby Draper, and I was on the team Hidden Below the Surface, and for me, this was my first year going to globals, so it was a pretty exciting experience for me, because all of my siblings have gone before, and this is my first year. My team, we did the challenge where you had to research an animal, and it had to blend in with its surroundings, like camouflage, and then we made like a play about it, and then within our play, our like set was a book, and we would like turn the pages, and at the end, we turned into like puppets, and the puppets like went across, and throughout the year, our team got really close, sometimes a little too close, but it was just a really fun and exciting year.
Very cool.
Yeah, my name is Connor Johnson. I was on Hidden Below the Surface as well, and it was also my first time. My sister, who's 11 now, she went last year, and she kind of prepared me a little bit for global finals, but I had to experience it myself, and it was really interesting and eye-opening because it was cool to see like different countries that I hadn't really noticed were into DI, and it was a lot of fun just to see that it's an international thing, not just part of the United States. So.
And while they swap out, there were 20 countries that participated.
I'm Ethan Seth, and I was also on Hidden Below the Surface. And I'll just say again what Connor said. It was really cool to see. Like, we'd only ever been to the state level, so that's as far as we'd seen. So going to globals, it's really cool to see that it's like there's so many more people who do this, so many more teams that have all these creative ideas. And it's really inspiring to go through and look at like all these teams have came here to do this, and they've all done a really nice job of what they've done. I just want to say it was all of our first time. Everyone on the team, it was our first time. And some of us had been in this since first grade and kindergarten trying to get here. So it was a really cool experience to actually be at that level and because before we just looked up to the other teams that are at that level. And we're like, wow, they're really good. We got to be that someday. And it's kind of cool to now be that team that's kind of up there, along with also Lost Time, of course. They're kind of the pros now, but yeah.
I'm in the duct tapinators, and we did the scientific challenge. We had to research like an animal and like make like a skit like where it had like to be hidden in plain sight. I'm Evie. One of the it's my first time going as well. And we had like 2 new team members on our team this year, so that was fun. It was really cool at like globals. Like I got to see like a team from Colorado that spoke in like French. Canada. It was cool to see theirs. I couldn't really know what they were saying, but yeah.
That's awesome.
My name is Michael, and I was also on the duct tapinators. And I really enjoyed trading pins, and this is my first year ever doing DI, and it's my first year, obviously, going to globals.
My name is Eva Hester, and I'm part of the Dream Team. And DI is a really great thing because it allows kids to meet new people from around the world. My team was able to make friends from both Tennessee and China, which is really cool. Hudson is already really well represented in DI. For the past 16 years, there have been teams that have made it to globals. DI helps kids understand talents and interests that they like. It helps kids improve their communication skills in many unique ways and helps kids work through problems individually without parental guidance which is something that not a lot of activities allow.
My name is Harrison Mattern. I'm also part of the Dream Team, and our challenge was Challenge E, where we had to build a structure and had to incorporate it into our play. So we built a structure, put a bunch of weights on it, and it also had to make a musical instrument, which would be along with the play. So like should play the instrument and put it on like a little rod thing, I guess. Yeah, that's rod. You put it on there. Then you just slowly stack a bunch of weights on it, and ours held about 1,000 pounds. Well, 1,035 pounds, but didn't count that. So yeah, that was our challenge. And like some of us on our team, like Oscar here, this was his first year of doing DI. Well, it was my 9th year of doing DI. So we got a lot of contrast and experience-wise, and yeah, all that. Oh, yeah, sorry. It weighed, Max, I don't know, how much did it weigh? It weighed 157 grams. That's how much the structure weighed. And how they scored it was a ratio between how much it weighed and how much it held. So like the winning team actually held like only 900. It was like 9 pounds. How much did it weigh? I completely forgot. No, the winning team. It held very little, just to say that, but it was very light at the same time. So, yeah.
I'm Regan Johnson, and I'm on the Dream Team. So this was my 2nd year doing DI. I started in 6th grade, and I skipped it in 7th grade because I was playing basketball. But this year I decided to do it again, and so I was very surprised when we made it to globals. But some things that kids experience when they're in DI, kids get to think about their future and the influence they have on it. It helps kids learn to problem solve and encourages engineering. It looks good on college applications. Project outreach gets kids involved and helps with the community problems that they might have. It encourages girls to pursue engineering. DI allows you to meet new people, and DI is a very fun program. Yep.
Hi, my name is Oscar Nimitz, and as I'm also on the Dream Team. As Harrison said, this is actually my first year going to DI, and I found it a really fun experience. And especially going to globals, you get to meet all different countries and meet all new teams, and it was a really great experience.
Thank you. And we also have 3 of the coaches here. So Kathy Kepulis coached a high school team right here by me, if I have this right. Jody Mattern coached the middle school team, and Katie Thorson coached one of the elementary teams. So Kathy would like to say a few words.
Well, they basically explained DI to you. It's really hard to explain DI in a short period of time. There's so much that goes into it. I really want to just thank the school district for supporting DI all these years. 13 plus years we've gone to globals, different teams. It really is an academic pertinent program to what the district's goals are with STEM and arts, humanities, and those 21st century skills, that creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration. I mean, they did a really good job hitting on a lot of that, so I don't really need to say anything more, but I really want to thank you so much for your continued support of DI.
Thank you. And if I have this right, just to give you a sense of the size of globals, that at like opening activity, there are 17,000 people in attendance.
That's right. It's a big stadium, 17,000 people in the audience. There are like 1,400 teams. Each team has up to 7 kids on the team. So like you said, 20 or 21 different countries from around the world, as far as Turkey, Qatar, that kind of thing. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge, very loud, raucousy party opening ceremonies. It's like being at a big game, but louder.
May I ask a quick question? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Jody Madden. I'm the coach of the Dream Team, or the manager, and I had some other terrific parents helping me out throughout this. But just so you know that they just don't get to go to globals, they have to go to the regionals, then they've got to go to state. So you have to place first or second in regionals, first, second, or third in state. And then state, with our team, I think we had 20 teams we had to compete against. Not only did they placed third, but they won what is called an instant challenge. So it's not just the main challenge that they do. They get stuck into a room with absolutely no idea what they're going to have to do. And they have somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes, given this challenge, figure it out and present it. And my team won their instant challenge. They placed first out of 20 teams. So congratulations on that. So with all those challenges that these kids get given, it's just not a given to get to go to the global final. So what they have accomplished is an absolutely amazing feat. So they all deserve a round of applause.
Rob, you good? Any other board member comments? No, Rob's good. Well, thank you so much. It just seems like a tremendous opportunity for you kids to get to compete in very different ways. So congratulations to all of you on some real great accomplishments, and thanks to the coaches for all the work, time, and effort I know that you guys put into making this program successful. So thank you so much.
Great job.
All right, so that brings us to citizens' requests to speak about non-action items. Do we have any, Tim? None this evening. Okay. Obviously, no response to public comments. That takes us to agenda item number 5, superintendent's report.
Must have been something I said. What I'm about to say. No, we have some wonderful reports coming up tonight, so I'm going to keep my comments brief as we have end of the year kind of state of the district a report coming up from all the different coordinators and directors, as well as a presentation by students from our North Hudson Elementary. A couple things I wanted to touch on that I think are good things going on. You asked me at the last meeting, did I make that WASDA Board of Control, and I did get voted onto the WASDA Board of Control. So,
nice.
So very happy about that. So I'll be representing the Hudson School District for the next 2 years with the state organization. Also coming up, there's a presentation I'll be giving on Wednesday to the Chippewa Valley Technical College to talk about partnerships and community college partnerships, actually, and some experiences there. The interesting thing about this was, so it was supposed to originally happen on Tuesday, and we had our construction meeting set up, so I had said to Tim Miner, can you please call them and see if we can reschedule, because it was supposed to be just a group of people sitting around a table talking about how we can have partnerships between K-12 and post-secondary. And then Tim said, well, there's a little bit of a problem. I talked to her, and they have 100 and some people coming, and you're expected to talk for an hour. And I said, okay, that's not exactly what we talked about on the phone. So so I will be, on Wednesday, I will be presenting to the Chippewa Valley Technical College Leadership Group, so it would be all of their department heads and leadership positions there, just to talk about some of my experiences with those type of partnerships that will be coming up and how we can build upon them. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on real quick, and then I'll turn it over to the other reports, is just an update on some of the district office changes that are going on. We talked about this a little bit when we were talking about approving the contract or the lease agreement next door and allowing us to move printing next door, which opens up some space at the district office. And so if you haven't been there lately, you'll notice that we've moved some walls out of there to increase the size of our ability to host meetings and professional development at the district office. And we've moved printing over to the building next door with ITS as well. And so things are coming along very, very well. And so I would encourage anybody that wants to stop over and see the progress, feel free to see the progress. We anticipate it being done the end of June, first part of July. Of course, I'm always asking for earlier dates, and Jim's always making sure I'm staying realistic. So, but no, it's been a great project, and we will. We're hoping that it'll be ready. The large room will be ready for our board work session that we have scheduled for June 27th, and at least that part of the project will be done, so you'll be able to see that firsthand. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it back over to reports.
All right, very nice. So moving on to reports, just one item for the board president's report. And this is a bit impromptu, so I hope I'm going to get these numbers right. But we did secure our first $80 million in bonds. And for those that followed the community engagement process, the numbers that we were using as we moved through the community engagement process was the 3.75, I believe, for our how we were breaking our bonds out and the rates that we were going to be getting on those bonds. The $80 million that we secured was at an average of 2.72. Am I correct in saying that? Which tallies out to be about $15 million in total cost avoidance, or just above that, for our district and for our community, which is absolutely fantastic. So congratulations on getting that done. Probably the largest bank account that you'll have under your watch for some time, but it is exciting. It is exciting for us to see some movement forward. It's exciting for us to get the savings that we did there, and I know that we'll be able to move forward from here. So with that, I will move on to item B under reports for preliminary budget.
Okay, this again, as we go through the process, you're going to have a chance to look at this budget in July. State will be giving a July 1st aid estimate, and we'll start to retool numbers a little bit. You'll get a chance to look at it in August. As we continue to work on the budget, you'll get a chance to look at it before the annual meeting as you move that forward, and then you'll do the final approval process in October. So there's a lot of budget time left, and you're probably going to get tired of looking at this as we move along. But I wanted to give you a very preliminary look at the budget, and I'm going to draw your attention down towards the bottom of that historical levy and mill rate page. So when we look at this, we're estimating valuation, and again, this is an estimate. We'll be getting some final numbers in August and then October for district-wide valuations. But we're estimating about a 6% increase in district valuations, so we feel they're going to be strong. So they'll be at about $3.8 billion. When we look at the levy is the general fund and the debt service fund, and of course, we've got the new payments coming on for debt service. And so the total levy is about $38.8 million, currently about a 19.9% increase. Brings the mill rate to 10.04, which is about a 13% mill rate increase. And so when you look at the line just below that, new referendum debt service, we talked about throughout the referendum the 90 cents on there. So that's generating about a 10.14% increase. So it's when you look at that mill rate, 13.12, and then about a 10.14 from the new referendum debt service. I'm going to move on to the budget summary sheet. And so I'll just run through some of the major budget assumptions that we've got right now. One of the things that we see is a little bit of an issue. I'll talk through the first three. Aid membership units increased just over 0.5%. So those are our funding units. Our equalization aid yet was down 1.2%. So even though we're going up in our aid, in our funding membership units, the projection at this point is that aid will be down about 1.2%. Again, we'll find out more when we get that July 1st estimate from the state. Categorical aid, the good news is that increased a little over $500,000, so that certainly helps replace some of what we lost. We attempted, if you remember last year, we cut a little over $1 million out of our operating budget due to state aid reductions, and so we are trying to restore some of those cuts. So we restored some dollars in a district-wide project area of about $150,000. As you remember, the full implementation of a teacher salary structure is included in this, and we've got that also includes about $183,000 of board-approved staffing. $150,000 was set aside for payment of qualified school construction bonds. That's something where we had some flexibility. So some years we're able to not include that, and we don't have to collect dollars for that. But we'll have payments due in 2 different years, which are coming up. So we want to keep setting dollars aside to make those payments on those bonds. And then another one of the major pieces is the lease and related expenses for the one-to-one Chromebooks of about $330,000. So as you look at this, those are some of the items that are impacting the budget at this point. And one of our biggest sources of funding, revenue side, so property taxes and equalization aid, those are really our 2 biggest sources of funding. And in this preliminary look at this, we're looking at about a 10.87% increase over last year for the general fund levy. Just highlighting some of the other areas. We're also looking at some slight decrease in other local aid. Again, some of these numbers will be sharpened up as we go along. But the categorical aid, which is number 610, that's moving up, as I mentioned before, in large part due to the increase in the categorical funding. We've got if we go down equalization aid, again, that's down, so about 1%. If we look down at the federal sources, we're looking at a slight decrease there. Again, some of these numbers may be adjusted as we are able to get final information as we run through the rest of the budget. So that's looking at total general fund revenues, 55.6, about 55.6 million last year, about 58.9 million this year. On the expenditure side, good thing is these numbers are going to be pretty solid. We may see some slight changes as we work through and continue the hiring process throughout the summer. But as you had approved all of those different wage and salary changes, this number should remain pretty solid, and that's certainly good news because it's one of the larger numbers, of course, where we provide service, and that is again reflected in the budget as well. If we look at other purchase service, that's where we're going to see the dollars for capital projects, some of the capital projects, and dollars for the Chromebook lease. So when you look at that increase, that's mainly what's driving that increase there. Capital objects, we did try to restore some additional equipment costs in there that were reduced from the previous year. And again, as we work through this, we'll have some additional changes to it. 838 is the transfer that I talked about, the debt service for the qualified school construction bond. So that's going from 0 last year to 150,000 this year. And again, that's normally what we try to do is fit that 150 in each year. So we continue to build up into that reserve, and then we have dollars available to pay off that debt service. So looking at last year, we had the approved budget was a $942,000 deficit budget, primarily due to the science lab upgrades, which came in as a project a little later on in the budgeting process. So we were using some of the committed fund balance that was set aside for that. This year, at this point, we've got about a $650,000 deficit. Good news is the line down below that, the estimated change in the 2015-16 projected fund balance, we should end up the year to a positive variance of about $500,000. So that will help offset that deficit quite a bit. Projected unassigned general fund balance, you can see those numbers there. And so we like to keep an eye on that percentage of expenditures, try to keep that in that 25 to 30% range. So the fund balance is a percentage of expenditures. And then you can see the levy summary there. The debt service levy on new referendum debt, that's just over $3 million. So that is a very preliminary look at the budget.
Any questions, comments from the board?
Mr. Vice President.
Yes, sir.
Tim, you mentioned our goal of being between 25 and 30% of fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. We're dropping a little bit under that. Any concerns?
Well, I think we can vary as long as we don't continue to drop. We're fine. Yeah.
Good.
Cash flow is adequate even at a 24%.
Just real quick, just understand that drop is, it's not because we can't levy anymore, it's because we're choosing not to levy anymore. So can be fixed, I mean, by levying more, raising the mill rate, but the choice right now is, I think, at the 24.16, we're still within we're in the wheelhouse and could potentially finish the year stronger. It looks like this year we're going to finish the year. Tim, you thought somewhere around a $500,000 surplus?
Yeah.
Is what you have marked?
Yeah, that's a good point, Nick. I think we're, under levy is assumed in this projection of about $11 million. So $11 million not being levied in this example.
That's a great point, Dr. Nick. Thanks.
Any other questions?
One last comment I would make as we get ready to head into the year. Very preliminary, as Tim talked about. We'll get our first set of estimates from the state, July 1st estimates, and then we'll get some more closer estimates in September, and then our final numbers come in October. And so, again, these numbers can tweak and do some of that. And I know some people might look at we went from 887 to 1004 on the mill rate, but of that is basically $1.05 related to a referendum, because 90 cents is debt service, which to pay the debt back. And then as we put through our literature, everything we told people is that there'd be about $500,000 of annual operating cost associated with the additional square footage and things along those lines. And so it takes about 15 cents, give or take, to raise about $500,000 worth of funding for us. And so when you think about all of those different components, there's only about a 12-cent difference in the mill rate as it doesn't relate to referendum stuff. And we did have our first year. It'll be our first year of the TSS rollout, the teacher salary structure rollout, which everybody's been aware that there's going to be some funding needed, obviously, to be able to support that program. And so we'll continue to break these things down and give you updates over the next couple months and keep you in the loop as to what's going on.
Good closing comments. With that, I agreed. I think that we've had enough conversation as a board around the TSS rollout and the impact that that's going to have on our budget as we just get that kicked off. So if there aren't any other questions, we will move to the North Hudson Shine Bright project.
All right, thank you so much. North Hudson fifth grade teacher, Mr. Burbach, brought HSD 2025 to life for his students through an inquiry project called Shine Bright. Tonight, several of the fifth grade students are here to share their research and what they learned through their solar panel project. Take it away.
Thank you for letting us share a little bit about our Shine Bright project.
This project was about our class raising funds and purchasing solar panels to help power our classroom.
We hope that you enjoy our video, and we are happy to take questions at the end of our presentation.
You know, that's what we're supposed to do in school. Think, right?
We decided as a class, after lots of thinking, researching, and learning, was to figure out a way that we could produce power for our classroom without negatively impacting our environment. We chose solar. Why solar? Solar energy is totally renewable and it doesn't give off any of those harmful gases. Listening said on solar got start butters.
Started with a big stove that meant it was time to make a mess in the kitchen. We managed to raise almost $800.
After that, we created and sold a Shine Bright t-shirt. We raised $2,200. Popcorn Fridays are next. We popped and sold popcorn on every other Friday of the last half of the school year. With the help of parents, we participated in a letter writing campaign to local businesses. We raised another additional $500.
Our songs to share a few of the things we've learned through our Shine Bright project. Learn how solar energy can power cars.
These are not organized. That's especially Friday the 26th. Yeah, 4 o'clock. That sounds good. Thank you. We learned about scheduling appointments with contractors. And what questions to ask.
We learn to look at options when we make final decisions. We are going to practice our thinking. We gain a better understanding of how solar energy works.
Now let's take this. Here's how it works. The panels we are having installed contain four voltaic cells. Each cell is made from silicon.
Sun gives off packets of energy called photons. When a photon hits one of the silicon atoms in the cell, it knocks off one of the atoms' outer electrons.
These three electrons then make their way toward a metal conductor on the solar cell surface. A strip transports a steady stream of electrons out of the cell so that it can flow into every people to people.
Not all good things happen overnight or even within a few months.
Hard work takes time, patience, and determination.
We learned that even though we won't have much time to use the energy, in the future other students can use the solar energy.
So what does this mean? Sometimes life isn't just about you and me. Sometimes it's about the greater good.
Do you have any questions for them?
Were you going to say something? Do you want to say?
no.
No? Okay.
Any comments from the board?
Mr. President, incredible, you guys. Big round of applause. That was amazing. Amazing project. I love how you incorporated many, many things with HSD 2025 and the vision of the district, and talked a lot about how all of the different aspects of learning you achieved during that project. It was fantastic. And your enthusiasm and creativity in that video, it was great. Fantastic job, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity tonight. We really enjoyed it.
So, quick question for you guys. How much energy were you able to produce?
So we produce around 2,000 watts with those panels, all 10 of them.
Wonderful. I think that there's probably a few folks in that video that have a bright career in sales, maybe even QVC. I mean, it's really impressive. A lot of energy out there. So, I think you guys probably learned a tremendous amount about a lot of different things throughout the experience. So nice job in the classroom, nice job to the teacher and all those that got behind this to make it happen and successful. So well done.
Mr. President, I just want to thank Mr. Burbach. I know he's done a tremendous job working with these children, so congratulations to him.
Excellent. So with that, we will move into the departmental year-end report.
So we are going to do things a little bit different than maybe what we've done in the past. So we have what, essentially the state of the schools or state of the districts usually that we go through, and the superintendent goes through and kind of gives the highlights of the year. And so one of the things I thought would be a little different is if we had each building and each department head come up and give about a 3-minute highlight of their department. If you have questions, that's fine. But that way everybody gets an opportunity to basically brag about all the great things that are going on in our district. And they are in our buildings. They are all over the district in a variety of different ways. And so we have 16 presentations tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to them. Here's Susie.
Good evening. I'm Susie Prather. I'm the principal of Hudson Prairie, and I want to thank all of you for providing this time for us to really share some of the highlights that go on in our school. It was a great exercise of our staff to create this document. We collaboratively brainstormed what are we most proud of at Hudson Prairie, and I'm just going to highlight 3 of the pieces for you tonight. To support our SMART goal in the area of reading, our teachers at Hudson Prairie really committed to learning from each other and adding rigor to our reading instruction. So some of the actions that we did is we spent some time really looking at our own practice. Our teachers actually videotaped themselves teaching a lesson. So it was all of our teachers teaching reading or our music teachers teaching a music lesson. And they critiqued themselves to see if they had all the essential elements and best practices of that lesson. It was a very enlightening experience for teachers to really see what they needed to do to improve. We also had a lot of classroom visits where teachers learned from each other's. They went into other classrooms in their same grade level, and then we spent a day going to the next grade up to really see what were those higher expectations in those classrooms and to learn from our teachers on how to really add that rigor and that higher level of thinking in the area of reading. The other piece that we did is we collaboratively assessed our students in reading. So we had teachers from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade in teams, and we had kids from school-age care that came and read for us, and we discussed how their accuracy was and how their comprehension was, and it really brought some consistency to our expectations for that kind of deeper level thinking that we're asking for. Another proud moment at Hudson Prairie is we are committed to students giving back to the community, kind of like the North Hudson students. We want our kids to take action to make the world a better place. So our student council hosts some regular service projects every year. So we did a food drive. We always do a giving tree to Grace Place every winter. And we also do Pennies for Patients, and we raised over $2,000 for Pennies for Patients this year for the Lymphoma and Leukemia Society. So we're really proud of that. We also have partnered with the Hudson Kiwanis for our Hudson Heroes project, and what that is grades 4th and 5th grade come up with service projects or things they can do to make the world a better place. And I'll just outline a couple of the service projects. One group actually had a talent show at our school to earn money for the Down Syndrome Society. We had students that were really into animals, so what they did is they actually had a pet walk, and they had treats for the dogs every time they finished a lap, and they took donations for the St. Croix Animal Friends to build a shelter with that. Some other things that they did, we had a group that really were concerned about if people were changing their batteries on their fire alarm. So it was just kind of more of that information piece. So that's something that we're really proud of and grateful of the Hudson Kiwanis for partnering with us to have those kids take some action for that. The third piece I want to highlight is our commitment to student wellness. At Hudson Prairie and at all the other elementary schools, we do have a Power Up campaign which really talks about healthy eating and really talks about healthy choices that we're having. We also have Friday Fitness on Kids News, so the kids, if you come on Friday, you can see the whole school dancing and exercising. It's great fun. And then something different, we always have had a family fun run in May, but we did add a running club to prepare kids for that. So our kids at recess time, you'll see them running laps, and for every mile that they run, they get little foot charms on their necklaces, and the kids really find it a great place to really exercise. We have some kids that have already run a couple marathons, and they're making us adults look a little bad, but it really prepared kids to really see the enjoyment of exercise. So those are just a few of the highlights at Hudson Prairie. Thank you.
Is it okay if we make a comment, Mr. President? Or not? Okay. No, I just wanted to make an observation, reading through both Susie's presentation and I believe at the high school too. The idea of teachers being able to observe other teachers and to talk to one another is absolutely fabulous. And it can do nothing but make you feel less isolated as a teacher in your day-to-day classroom carrying on. And it's amazing how just observing another teacher, not that you'll do what they do, but it can just fire up your own creative inspirations about maybe how to handle math or a social studies project or something like that. So I just really applaud that idea. I mean, I think that that will add to one's personal best practice as faculty.
Thank you. Moving on to Assistant Superintendent, Learning Services.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make an announcement too. Don't you think that Susie would be a great member of the Kiwanis Club? You should mention that to her. I'm recruiting. All right, so first of all, before I start with the highlights, it's interesting to think about where we are right now and how much we've accomplished this year. This time last year, my office was heavily involved in the pre-survey portion of the community engagement process. That seems like that was so long ago. It's incredible, all the work that's done, so congratulations to all of you and everyone here. It's been great to see all the great work that has happened. I broke my highlights into 4 primary areas: educator effectiveness, instructional technology services, district-wide professional development, and then finally instructional and system improvements. And I'll keep my comments brief. But within educator effectiveness, it breaks down to 2 primary areas, and that would be alignment and professional development. Educator effectiveness is in its 2nd full year. We've been involved with the initiative for about 4 years, but 2nd full year of implementation. But it was at an increasing level of importance with the connection to the teacher salary structure. So a lot of work with professional development, making sure that all administrators, all teachers, and educational specialists were up to speed and understood the standards as best they could. The other thing we focused a lot of our time on was calibration, and that is essentially the process of ensuring that what one evaluator thinks is distinguished or effective aligns to what another would deem as effective or distinguished, and that's important as we roll this out. And one other thing that I'd like to mention is just My Learning Plan is an electronic platform, and we've taken great strides to make sure that that system is aligned and as effective as it possibly can be. And you're hearing a lot of we. Every one of the highlights that I'll be sharing, it represents a team of people that have worked very hard to make this happen. So I don't have time to list everyone, but no, there's a lot of people behind all of these accomplishments. Moving on to instructional technology services, it's been a big year, a lot of change in instructional technology services. This was the last year Nancy Toll is retiring, so a great year for her to be able to celebrate all of the accomplishments. There's been a lot, and I know that she can feel proud of the work that she has accomplished. So one of the things I wanted to highlight was the selection of school blocks as our learning management system. This is a tool that will support our teachers and our students very directly. It serves as a learning management system, which is essentially the platform for integration. It allows teachers to communicate with the students, students with the teacher, students with one another, and then teachers with families. In addition, you're all aware that we had the transition to Gmail and Google Calendar, and I think that everyone is squared to work. Lynn is still trying to get her mouse to work. We'll fix that. And then we also supported the 2nd year of our one-to-one Chromebook rollout. So now this last year we had 6th grade, 7th grade, and the high school academies equipped with Chromebooks. We will be expanding next year with the complete rollout from grades 3 through 12. So a lot of work to complete that rollout. If you get a chance, we'll have to take you down after the meeting. We have about 3,500 Chromebooks stacked up in one of the classrooms down the hall, all locked up, and they're being processed right now. So very exciting. We're glad to see that all happen. And I wanted to mention one of the supports because it's incredibly important, and I think it's the most impactful support we have in terms of technology integration, and that's our technology integration coaches. They've done great work. We've expanded our team thanks to the support for our staffing proposal, and looking forward to working with that new team as we roll into next year. And then finally, just wanted to point out over 3,500 help desk tickets that were resolved. The team needs to feel very proud. Our IT team has done an incredible job of being service-oriented and helping everyone to make sure that our downtime is limited and our integration and our support for all the great things that are supported with technology are able to keep moving forward. Moving on to district-wide professional development, break it into a couple different areas. One would be for new teachers and specialists, new teachers supporting the mentor program. We've had 13 initial educators that were hired that had mentors assigned to them, training the mentors. Our mentors are fantastic teacher leaders that support our new teachers at a very high level, as well as orientation for an additional 27 teachers and specialists. Again, speaking to alignment, so much of this you're going to hear about the educator effectiveness standards because we aligned our professional development as best we could to these standards. So if we're offering a class or there's a seminar, that we're letting teachers and specialists know this is how it applies to those standards that are used within the educator effectiveness system. And then moving on to instructional and system improvements, a few things I wanted to mention here. Again, we're talking about teams. The instructional coach team, phenomenal group of leaders that I rely on very heavily. They're great thinkers and great doers. And one of the things that we're able to do this year is finalize the process of creating our coaching system the way we really want it to be, which is student-centered, which essentially means that when a coach works with a teacher, they're not talking about what the teacher needs to do differently. What they're doing is they're talking with the teacher and saying, what do you want your students to be able to do that they're not able to do now, and how can we work together to make that happen? And there are a couple other things on there. I know that I want to keep my comments brief, so you can read through the details, but thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Also in learning services, we want to focus on the curriculum side. So first we begin with our focus on student learning, and many of the accomplishments that are shared in this section came to the board over the course of the year as recognitions. We take great pride in the many successes of our students and staff and know that these represent a few of the many high points that consistently showcase Hudson as a high-performing district. In the area of curriculum, I must mention the highly valued work of the elementary and secondary curriculum specialists. They are extremely respected by staff and administration with the high levels of support and leadership they provide to curriculum and assessment development, and we thank you for that support. New courses that were supported this year were Forensic Science and Introduction to Healthcare Occupations. Melissa Hansen, School to Career Coordinator, also supported the healthcare occupations by arranging 2 healthcare discovery days, 1 each semester. You're going to hear much more about academic career plans in the coming months. This year, a district ACP team was established by Tony and I, and information was gathered at DPI and state workshops on the implementation of academic career plans. We also took the necessary steps to implement, I have to slow down, the state-supported software tool the past few months. The coordination and implementation of required state assessments was huge once again this year, as we had yet another set of new state assessments in ELA, math, science, and social studies called the Forward Exam. This effort takes a true team effort, especially with principals, media specialists, counselors, and the instructional technology staff. And I think we are all looking forward to no anticipated changes in assessment next year. In the area of program review and evaluation, English Language Arts started phase 1 of the review process this year. Phase 1 is considered the evaluation phase, where we examine where we currently are and where we want to be by analyzing performance data, best practice information, and state standards. Something new tried this year in both ELA and business, and this was in collaboration with Principal Peg Shoemaker, and we found very successful, was to conduct focus groups to gather information from a variety of stakeholders. So we brought in alumni, business community members in those areas, higher ed representatives, and asked a series of questions to gather feedback to understand more about what our students need once they leave our four walls. A solid elementary balanced literacy program, including reading, writing, and spelling workshop, was put in place. Elementary ELA went deeper with the implementation of reading and writing workshop this year through professional learning on summarizing and synthesizing. We also implemented the final triad of literacy by providing professional learning on spelling workshop this year. Spelling workshop focuses on the development of strategies and the application of spelling patterns. And then also a decision was made this spring to implement a new handwriting resource starting with kindergarten in the fall. World Language completed phase 2 of the program review process. The team worked to develop an articulated scope and sequence for all levels of language and will work to complete aligned assessments over the next few months. And then School to Career Coordinator Melissa Hansen also had several highlights to mention in the area of career and technical ed. School to Career worked to establish new healthcare and STEM pathways with our higher ed partners, co-managed a welding academy that was made possible through a Blueprint to Prosperity grant, offered a successful Women in STEM event, co-facilitated a regional job fair, and assisted in the development of financial literacy curriculum delivered through Junior Achievement Volunteers to all juniors. And then I'd like to close with just giving a little sense of today's current reality in learning services, summer school and summer swim. So today, over 700 K-8 students started summer school, enrolled in a variety of enrichment classes such as cooking up a story, going buggy, or duct tape 101. And then in addition, approximately 350 students started swim lessons today, the first of 4 two-week sessions. So grass doesn't grow under our feet too much in learning services.
I'm Peg Shoemaker, high school principal, and I'm here this evening to talk to you a little bit about some of the highlights at the high school. First of all, though, I would like to thank my other principal colleagues for the work that they do in preparing our students to come up through the system. All of them are going to be talking to you about some of the deeper level learning that they're really looking for in their students and in the programming that they develop with their students. So at the end of the day, when our kids graduate, really what we hope is that we're not just going to get them into college, but we are going to get them through college, that we're cultivating thinkers and problem solvers and dreamers and entrepreneurs. That's what we want for our kids. And so it's beyond the basics, if you will. It's more about how do we involve critical thinking, how do we involve problem solving, how do we impact the world that they're going to be facing. I'll talk first about my SMART goal, which our SMART goal at the high school, with the support of Dave, we've really been working at coming up with a common goal that every single high school teacher can get behind. This is not easy when you think about that notion. You've probably heard that high schools are silos connected with a common parking lot. And we're trying to shift that at the high school, that we are interconnected, that our subject areas have interconnection, because we know that kids learn best that way, that when their subjects cross, the standards cross different content areas, they can make those connections in choosing what is it that I want to be, what's my passion, what do I want to do with my life. And so what we've been working on is this notion of disciplinary literacy. Every discipline has its own literacy, and that becomes our common focus point in our SMART goals. So with that, similar to what Susie was talking about, is this idea that we need teachers connecting with one another, so that a social studies teacher is observing in a math classroom and a math teacher is observing in an English classroom. There's so much to be learned from one another in terms of strategies that are being implemented for learners and management strategies, but mainly learning strategies that go across every single discipline. So that's been a focus for us this year, is that observing one another, and then also meeting on Thursday mornings with different professional learning communities. So you might have a 9th grade social studies meeting with an 11th grade social studies, or a 9th grade English teacher, a group of teachers meeting with a 11th grade social studies teachers. So again, how do we learn from one another? Because this is the very thing that we want our students to be able to do. Additionally, Freshman Academy, we have moved it in the last 3 years to a systematized initiative. I probably won't talk to you about Freshman Academy anymore because it's working, and we are doing incredible things, have moved that failure rate down to less than 6% of any freshman fails a course. We know when they fail a course in their freshman year that their scope of what they can do with the rest of their high school years becomes limited. And so we've got it nailed down. We're taking it even further, though, and we're implementing at least 4 times a year project-based learning at the freshman level. So it means that a social studies teacher, an English teacher, and a science teacher will do a project-based learning unit, an inquiry unit, based on a driving question. We are sending, again, 4 Freshman Academy teachers to project-based learning training this summer, and are increasing the amount of project-based learning that we'll have within our Freshman Academy. Additionally, our Freshman Academy will be presenting at WACD in Appleton in the fall. So it's really exciting when you know in your line of work how when you initiate something, there's bumps along the way, and then all of a sudden you have it systematized where this is just a machine that's working really, really well for kids. Additionally, our STEM and Healthcare Academy, we've had some additions this year, including our Academy stewards who really help to honor and cultivate the vision of the Academy, and this consists of parents, industry volunteers who come and meet with us one time every quarter, and we initiate and they give feedback regarding things that are happening in the industry, as well as the soft skills that we're trying to incorporate. Also, we have we've implemented this year for 11th grade, we have 35 mentors for our 11th graders who meet with their students. So again, it's industry people coming in that or volunteers that really work on the soft skills. How do you email without starting with the word hey? How do you look in the eye and shake hands? All of those things that make it or break it in the world of work. And so those are the kinds of things that they're working on and supporting. And then finally, I've talked to you about this earlier, but we just received the $20,000 grant from Anderson Windows, and we have our beautiful 3D printer that's massive and has massive potential. So thank you.
Okay, I'll talk a little bit about financial services, and Mark is going to also share with you some comments as well. Of course, a lot of our work has focused on the referendum this year. Pretty exciting to be able to say that we're moving forward instead of talking about another referendum. So some of the things that we've worked on, and again, this is really inclusive of all our staff. We can't do it alone. One person can't do all these things. So one of the things was we developed, as you saw, numerous debt scenarios. How can we minimize that impact to the taxpayer? Creating operational cost estimates, for 3 different plan options, and we provided a property tax calculator on our website for the public to use. When we were issuing the bonds, we used a creative, I think really a creative structure to issue those bonds. One of the things that we did was by using a municipal advisor, we were able to bring some added objectivity in when we worked with our underwriter, but we also wanted to make sure that we maintain the services of an underwriter that was kind of really a market maker for municipal bond issues. That was able to bring us more people to the marketplace, more people to give competitive bids on those bonds. So I think, as Bruce mentioned, some of that's due when you look at that $15 million in savings. That's looking at that interest rate that was squeezed down. We looked at for bond proceeds. We designed a bond proceeds structure that saved us some investment expenses and generated some additional, or will generate some additional investment income for us as we go through and hold those bonds and then spend down the balance on the project. So, but we always maintain that we've got really looking at safety, liquidity, and then rate of return in that order. So we're in investments that are very safe, vanilla type investments like treasuries, certificates of deposit up to the FDIC limits. We participate in a CEDARS program, which is a Certificate of Deposit Registry program. Again, looking at those things, we want to make sure that we're comfortable with the types of investments because this is the public's money. And the CEDARS program, another great program that is rated highly by Standard & Poor's as far as safety is concerned. We also negotiated some cost avoidance things during the referendum. So we look at underwriting fees, legal fees, and then municipal advisor fees. We saved about $158,000 there. Financial planning and programs. Again, just highlighting some of these things. We completed renovation of the high school science labs. Really a fun project, a great project. We were able to provide opportunities for all students to participate in lab exercises. That was completed on time and under budget, and it was a very, very short timeline for us to get that done. Again, Jim did an excellent job there as well. We negotiated a lease renewal for additional space with savings of about $10,000 annually. We had another successful independent audit for last year, so we received the highest opinion of an unmodified opinion. We also, as I mentioned earlier, we had reductions of about $1.2 million for this budget year. We were able to do that by keeping the cuts out of the classroom. So we didn't, no staff were laid off as a result of that. We maintained programs, and so that's really what it's about. We also maintain the district's high bond rating of AA1, which is an extremely high bond rating for school districts. And with that, I'm going to let Mark talk about a few items.
Yeah, so I'm just going to speak a little bit about some of the steps and new things we've implemented to kind of safeguard our assets at the district and to help prevent fraud in our financial services office. And one of the services that we're utilizing now is called Positive Pay. It's a service that we work with our bank on. Some of you might be familiar with that term. So basically what happens is we upload any check that we cut through payroll or through accounts payable. We have a report that we can upload into the banking system. So then when anybody is presenting those checks, that they're going to match up within our bank to make sure if somebody's trying to potentially write a fraudulent check for the school district, it's going to pop out as an exception for us. We're going to see those on a daily basis and have to approve them. So it's a nice step that we've taken to help reduce the, you can't fully ever prevent some of the things that are out there, but it's a step that we can take to try and mitigate that and reduce our risk as much as possible. We have implemented newly this year as well dual authorization for everything. So whether it's something as small as a small ACH or a wire of $10 up to our large payroll files, everything gets approved twice within our office. So it prevents if you have electronic hackers or people trying to get into your system, if they can potentially get a hold of a computer, they're not able to have money leave the district. There's always going to be that second check. So our staff is talking to each other and making sure that we're well aware. And it's I've really noticed it's helped increase their communication as well. between accounts payable and payroll. They're usually in communication quite a bit. So if they do see things, they're recognizing it sooner. It's a way to help us prevent that on the front end, versus seeing it on the back end. So those are some of the things we've been working towards to prevent some of the fraud in those areas. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Kim Ostrios. I'm the elementary principal at Willow River Elementary School, and I'd like to highlight for you 3 of our strategic actions that we have been working on throughout this year to help support our SMART goal attainment that are highlighted within our school performance report. The first one I'd like to share with you is also dealing with the vertical observations. What we did at Willow this spring in collaboration with our SMART team, or our leadership team, was we actually did the vertical observations where classroom teachers and staff went down a grade to help support the further collegial growth, as well as those learning opportunities for students, so that when students come in the fall, they'll already have an idea and be able to visualize what students were able to do in the spring, so they're able to hit the ground running right when the students come in. The second highlight that I'd like to talk about is about our summer reads. This is our second summer that we have Willow Reads, which is a partnership that we have with the Hudson Public Library and their summer reading program. Last summer was our first summer that we worked in collaboration with the Hudson Library, and our students read a combined over 50,000 minutes, which earned them Willow Reads this fall, where it was a drop everything and read. We had community members. Nick came down and read to our students, and we had some of the sports teams came in, as well as other community members came and read to the students. So we are doing that again this summer with the Hudson Library. Our staff also go down to the library and read every Wednesday as part of their summer reading program. The third thing I like to highlight is our readathon. This is our second year that we've done Willow River Readathon in partnership with our Willow parent group. And this past year, we did it again, our students earned, over a 2-week period, our students earned up to about $7,000 to help support the parent group. Through that 2-week period, our teachers were attempting to catch students reading, so they called students each evening and tried to catch them reading. So by the end, we were able to our goal was to catch all 400 students read. So those are 3 of our highlights at Willow River. I think mine was the shortest.
Within student services, we generated about 3 pages of department highlights, and those 3 pages represent the collaborative efforts of over 100 certified staff, as well as our building administrators and our student services department. It would take too long to go into all of them, so I highlighted just a few. The first one has to do with our annual data. We're very proud of the work and the results that are coming out of student services. A few that I'd like to touch on. Our special education student MAP growth outpaced average district growth in 4 of our 7 schools. Our English as second language student MAP reading growth outpaced average district growth in 4 out of 5 schools. 15% of our English learners exited the program. This past year, we had no expulsions for the first time in the history of us maintaining that documentation. Our bullying incidents decreased from 17 last year to just 5 this year, and we've experienced a nearly 20% reduction in office behavioral referrals for this last year. So even though we're continuing to see some very strong data, we're not resting on our laurels. We're continuing to innovate and develop new programs that support the academic, social, emotional, and physical well-being of all of our students. So to that end, we've had a few different initiatives going on. One that we're particularly proud of at the early childhood level is that we're developing a universal preschool screening for children ages 3 to 5. This is something that we have never had in the district before, and our upcoming screening days are going to be early this coming August. We're very excited. Our high school special education cross-categorical team went through a very large-scale, full-year math curriculum review, and that resulted in the recommendation and purchase of a new Tier 3 math curriculum, as well as developing a co-teaching model in the area of math that we're looking to expand into language arts in the future. You've heard a lot about our school-based mental health program over the last year and a half or so. This past year, we expanded from 3 schools up to 5 schools, and we successfully served 45 students that received mental health therapy right on site in our schools from one of our partner Family Means therapists. You may recall that you approved an agreement for us to implement the Smiles for Life dental program for children to receive on-site at our school preventative dental care. Some of those things included cleaning, fluoride applications, and sealant placements, and over 70 students across all of our buildings received those services this last year. And then finally, we're proud as a special education department to be one of only about 10 districts in the entire state of Wisconsin that participated in the Department of Public Instruction's pilot results-driven accountability program. This will be a new initiative for the entire state next year, and we were one of 10 districts to get our feet on the ground and get some practice with that. So we're excited for the implementation this year. Thanks.
Good evening, Ann Mitchell at the middle school. We'll start with our SMART goal like the other schools did. The middle school made a significant shift in focus this year, and it's kind of fourfold in its shift. We not only made the shift to collaboration, we taught ourselves about it, learning, developed tools to explicitly teach the students collaboration skills, then used them with the students, and then measured our success with them. That wasn't the wisest thing we could have done in one year, but it did prove to be quite motivating and inspiring for our staff based on the survey when I asked them to share highlights. SMART goal was the #1 highlight mentioned. Not just because of the data. When you scroll down, you see the data. It's not what our goal was. It fell short of what our goal was. However, you'll notice the highest percentages in the strand of provides evidence, which we think is evidence of the emphasis previously on disciplinary literacy and providing evidence. And the lowest strand we need to work on. We have a lot of work to do because we're moving in the direction of inquiry, and poses questions is our weakest strand right now. So we've got our work cut out for us in the future. You'll see at the very bottom of that first page the next steps that our reflections showed from staff highlight notes. On the second sheet, I just clustered together what staff had said under the most frequently mentioned. The first one being grading for learning. This was the first year implementing a grading for learning practice of weighting summative assessments at 80% of their final grade and formative assessments at 20%. That was difficult and challenging to communicate with parents and then to implement with fidelity across all subject areas and grade levels. We're still working on that and tweaking it. It also means extra credit is gone and behavior is not included in grades, which is another shift for people to make. The second cluster of most frequently mentioned highlights was under the area of communication. There's links in your document to Professional Learning Google site and the Middle Musings family blog. The second tab on the family blog is House Communication Leaders, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then our parent seminars were highlighted as very successful, both with parents and with staff. The third area most often mentioned was the 6th grade transition enhancements, the schedule, the improvements in terms of the data we're collecting from our 5th grade teachers, from the 5th grade students themselves, and from 5th grade parents. We're very excited about the amount of data and information that we are able to share with 6th grade advisors in the process of bringing those kids to the middle school. The next area you actually heard about from Dave and Sandy, the instructional coaching, curriculum development, and tech integration. We had a powerhouse at the middle school of support for our team with Mary Beth Elliott, Nancy Dressel, and John Kirkowski. Just a really bang-up job supporting teachers with that Google site and the transition to Google. And there's several little quotes underneath there that came from staff. The next area was a bit of a surprise to me given the context of second year of educator effectiveness, first year of teacher salary structure, and of course first year with a new building leader. Educator effectiveness showed up on several. And then the slide format that I provided for you, if you want to look at that later, actually has more quotes about the SMART goal and a couple more about educator effectiveness. I chose one that I thought was particularly affirming. The student leadership was the last one I'll highlight because it was multiply mentioned. We had 3 student leader groups initiated this year. Student advisors to the administrators, students supporting students at the 6th grade level, which will continue in 7th grade, and the house communication leaders I mentioned before. Those are students who actually put together communication for parents so that parents could look at the tab on the blog and then ask questions of their kids when they came home from school, so they wouldn't hear, "What'd you do in school today?" Nothing. The rest of them were individually mentioned by teachers and staff members, so read at your leisure. And I think I win, Kim.
I'm going to start with community education and facility rental. On your document, you see a chart of the most recent history in our participants and the number of classes and the continued growth in the number of participants, both adults and youth, in community education. There's 3 highlights this year that I think are worth mentioning. This is the first year that we offered daddy-daughter dance. This is something other communities do and usually start out pretty slow. We started out with 600 participants, so that was above and beyond what we expected, and very much thanks needs to go out to Katie Elwood, elementary parent at EP Rock, who really helped get this off the ground and provided a lot of support to this activity. We also started in community ed some bus tours, and we just came back this weekend from Door County, taking a group out for a long weekend. Some very positive feedback. Nick got a call this morning from one of the participants in that event. Just very thankful for Betsy's work and the work that she does ahead of time before these trips. It does provide a service to a group in our community that primarily older single folks who are looking for, may have a spouse that they've lost and really looking for an opportunity to travel, and this provides that to them. Another highlight is our open gyms. We started doing this on Friday nights for our elementary families who are really looking just for some semi-structured time to get out and move around, and those have been a great success for us, and I'm sure we'll continue to build on. The other part of this is our facility use, and what you have here is a chart. Numbers by themselves don't mean a whole lot, but if I look at 2 years ago where we are at compared to now, we've increased our gym use 18%. And our field use 23%. And what this amounts to is nearly 40,000 hours of use in our buildings outside the school day that either through our own activities or our community activities. It's a huge amount of use in those buildings, as I'm sure Jim will talk about later. Switching gears, I'll go to communications. In most of this you're aware of with the community engagement process, the work that we've done, as well as the referendum. There's one piece about the referendum that I really think was standout, that stood out for us, and that was the video. And working with Capture Video to put together that story for us. And I look forward to continuing to work with them as we continue to highlight where we're at in the progress on the construction, and just, I think, also use them to highlight what we're doing as a district. So I'm continuing to work with them. Also with our internal and external communications, leading the development of our rebranding and implementation of that with very good feedback and lots of folks going through that process that we put into place as far as getting a permissible use of the logo, and that's all working out really well. The website redesign and implementation is in process. We'll go live July 1, fingers crossed. That's a daily project. And then also as far as district-wide communications, We did some great pieces that we mailed out to communities. At your table tonight, you have a draft newsletter that we're completing. It's this piece. It's not going to be this size. It's a full piece. But we will be completing that tomorrow. I'm working with the designer, and it'll hopefully go to print this week so it can go out in mailboxes before the end of this month. But we intend to continue to communicate. There will always be a section in this to communicate the progress on the construction, but also to highlight what we're doing as a district beyond just going to our community to talk about when we need money from them. And then also improving what we're doing through our social media efforts as well.
Right. Hello, I'm Katie Koppenberger from Rivercrest Elementary School, and I will also begin with talking a little bit about our SMART goal and one of our specific action plans to highlight. You'll find a thread or a theme within the elementary principals and middle school and high school that there's value in collaboration and across the buildings and across the classrooms. And sometimes getting better results out of kids isn't about doing something new, flashy, or different, but it's digging into that which we know research has shown will produce better results. One of the actions that we did at Rivercrest was collaboratively analyzing what's called running records or formative assessments in reading. So teachers observed each other collecting that formative assessment data with students and then discussed what they saw, what were the strengths and what were areas for growth for the students in the next steps. So they did some collaborative planning. Involved in that were our classroom teachers, our instructional coach, our speech language pathologist, our special education teachers, and they all worked together to really look at what the students were doing and how to help them make the next growth. That resulted in one of our goals was closing the gap between our students in speech language services and our general education students, and we were very successful with that this past year. But additionally, all the students benefit and all the teachers benefit from gaining tips and ideas from their colleagues. At the building level, we were very proud of our increase in library circulation. We went from having 27,352 checkouts last year, which was higher than the previous year, to 36,041 this year. That increase was made possible through discussions with our building leadership team and our library media specialists. And some of the things that we did to help increase circulation was reduce or remove the limit students had on how many books they could check out at a time. We also made it so that students could check out a book at any point in time they were in the building before we had specific designated times. And then we created an authentic audience for our students to give book recommendations to their peers through our Rivercrest Reporter. So as soon as they were done with a book and they thought it was great, they could write up a report and get put on our Rivercrest News in the morning. And they loved doing that. So we had fewer, I think 1 week before school let out, we still had 1,000 books not turned in, which is more than we've ever had also. But by the last week, parents really pulled together and we had less than 300 still out, and it decreased as each day went on. So I assume parents will find some during the summer and bring them in the fall. Another highlight that I'm particularly proud of is our theme on character traits. So we did, for example, in September, a focus on respect. What we've done in the past through our PBIS is focus on what maybe those character traits for being respectful mean within our building. So how to show respect when you're using the bathroom, in the cafeteria, in the classroom, in the hallway. What we did was expand that to what it means to be a respectful citizen with a focus on our country and our veterans and active duty military. So during the month of September, we wrote letters and poems of gratitude, and we planned an assembly for our veterans, which happened at the end of October instead of on Veterans Day. The students showed respect by dressing up that day. They invited guests. They greeted them at the door. They had a welcoming ceremony. They had a reception afterwards. They created custom programs and handed them to them individually to our guests. And we also had practiced ahead of time how to show respect for presentation of colors. So to have the entire student body of over 500 students stand silently and see the colors presented and show that respect. And it carried through. We got some accolades from community members and guests that day sent letters sharing how much it meant to them to see the students really taking into action what respect means. But we also cut in half the office discipline referrals to our office this past year related to respect. So in the previous 2 years, we had averaged over 50 during the year that I had to work with students and help teaching them what respect meant. This year, that dropped down to 24. So it had a long-lasting impact, and we did that with other character traits as well. So those were some of the highlights and things we were particularly proud of at Rivercrest this year. Thank you.
I'm going to talk about some of the facilities and grounds highlights for the year. Why are you giggling?
I'm so excited.
Okay. You all have this, I'm sure, in your board packs. During the 15-16 year, which is still in progress for us, we were involved in about $600,000 worth of district-wide projects for a variety of reasons. The improved curriculum, major repairs, things like that. We also had a $950,000 science wing renovation at the high school, so we were involved in about $1.6 million worth of projects improving the infrastructure of the school district. There's a list of projects here, and I'm not going to go through every one of them. Some of the bigger ones, we've got a whole bunch of carpet replacement we do every year. We're in the process of doing about $100,000 worth of seal coating district-wide. We did a ton of major repairs and work in the pool this year, both at the end of last summer and the beginning of this summer. Some major boiler repairs, some other system upgrades to building automation systems, a couple big compressor replacements, and some special ed renovations. I'm going to take a little different tact with this too. I kind of want to focus a little bit on the second and third paragraphs of my report here, which kind of dives in a little bit to the daily work that the Facilities and Grounds Department does. So some statistics that are interesting. We clean about 950,000 square feet of space every day. Each guy is responsible for about 24,000 square feet. So if you equate that to a typical 3,000 square foot home, they're cleaning about one 3,000 square foot home an hour. And that's not a typical 3,000 square foot home, because based on our enrollment of around 5,500, that 3,000 square foot home would have 17 occupants. So they're very busy, and this is done day in, day out. And on top of that, we do, I wish I had some of Tracy's slides, because that would certainly prove some of my point for my third paragraph here, which is we also provide coverage and support for hundreds of after-hours and weekend events scheduled through the Community Service Department. And most of that is typically done after these guys have a full work weekend already. So it's very hard for me not to talk a lot about my staff, because all of this happens because of them and their willingness to go above and beyond just coming to work and doing their job. You know, we really count on them during the week and during the weekend. And I think that's something that really needs to be recognized by the board. So, and I might have had the shortest presentation now. Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a question for Jim. I don't see anything on this list about all the preparatory work you've been doing to help us with referendum data and measures. And I got to the office area early one time a couple weeks ago, and I walked by, and obviously when I looked in the window, that was your office.
Yes.
Because there are all these rolls of blueprints, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not
Well,
telling
that
you
didn't
what
make
to
the list
do,
for
but
me.
that should be on there somewhere.
This is not an inclusive list by any means, but these were kind of the highlights I could think of at the time, so, all right.
Hi, my name is Sue Helmers. I am the principal at Holton Elementary, and I want to start by saying thank you for quite a whirlwind of a year. It was about a year ago that I accepted the position at Holton Elementary, and it has truly been an amazing year. And with 25 plus years in education, I think this is my favorite job so far. So thank you. I also want to thank Ann for leaving Holton in a position that really was a well-oiled machine and allowed me to walk in and just hit the ground running. So it started out as a great year and ended as a great year. Our SMART goal sort of drove what we did in terms of academics and in terms of what our leadership team focused on. We worked a lot with achievement, but also a lot with growth and taking kids at all levels and making sure that all of our students were making progress towards what their belief and what their expectations could be, growing to their potential. As a SMART team, we met monthly and came up with the goals that our staff and worked on to help our students. We worked a lot with trying to motivate and engage all of our learners, and we did that through just observations and paying attention to what kids were interested in. Our instructional coach helped in making observations with teachers. We came up with some things that would really keep kids interested and focused on their learning and on their reading. We worked on written responses where students wrote about what they were reading and really built in some deeper levels of understanding and comprehension. We also worked on student goal setting where students were able to identify what it was that they were to work on. As young as kindergarten, we had kindergartners setting goals, which brings in a real sense of ownership and motivation to reach those goals. As a team, I know we've all been talking about collaboration. Even though the Holton staff is small, we still learned a lot from each other. We met probably every 6 to 8 weeks as grade level teams to look at all of the students that were in 4th grade, for example, and together very collaboratively problem solved in order to meet the needs of not only those kids that were maybe struggling, but to also come up with ways to keep our kids growing. So maybe those kids that weren't making the growth that we wanted to see, the teachers worked together, and that old saying of 2 heads are better than one really came through in that, you know, well, have you tried this? Yeah, you should try it this way. And it was really, it was very rewarding for me to see the teachers working so closely together. A couple of other highlights include Holton has been known for its involvement in the community, and we've had some really great opportunities out there with the bridge being built and that sort of thing. Our 3rd grade students were able to come up with, design some interpretive signs. They are signs that are going to be placed along the loop trail, and so they were able to come up with some ideas to present to the county and to the Department of Transportation on what they thought should be on those signs, and so they created presentations and brought those forward. They also worked with a community member, the 3rd grade team, or the 3rd grade students on their space unit, and had a space night out at Holton where they brought out these gigantic telescopes, and it was kind of one of those opportunities where you step back and just go, wow, only at Holton would we have these gigantic telescopes, and we could see Jupiter and see space stations and things like that. So it was a really great way for the kids to be involved in hands-on learning and to be really working with people in the community. The space that we have at Holton is probably one of the greatest pieces that makes Holton so unique. And we have a couple of projects that we are working on currently to really be involved and to continue to learn in our space. We are currently, Mr. Stayskull and myself are working on a greenhouse this summer. We're working collaboratively with a master gardener who has served Holton for many years and has given many hours. So we're working to start a greenhouse that will nearly double the size of the one that we currently have. That will start in July. We have a team of parents, teacher, and students that are working on designing and fundraising for a new playground that hopefully will be ready a year from now. And I'm currently working with, I hope, an Eagle student or Eagle Scout to do some sort of a pavilion out in our prairie. He's not as excited about that as I am, but so anyway, that is in a nutshell the highlights at Holton and what has been truly a remarkable year for me as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Hagan, and I'm the coordinator for School Age Care. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you some of the fun things that are happening at School Age Care. School Age Care is a huge program serving over 700 students during the school year and 400 students in the summer. This past week, we welcomed them to our summer program at Prairie. Our School Age Care program is based on free choice, and we like to allow the students to plan their summer. We offer the awesome opportunities, and they keep their minds active. This year, we developed some new classes such as Star Wars, Lego building, photography, and everything cat, just to name a few. There are many cool activities that go with each class. We have launched solar balloons, hatched baby snakes and ants, learned magic, made gum, cheese, and ice cream, and traveled around the world. Currently, we are building a giant hotel for cats. Being the largest summer program in the area, a great deal of our success is a reflection of the dedicated and creative staff that creates and implements this program. During the school year, we serve over 700 students in 5 elementary schools. A highlight from this school year was the addition of themed days on late start, early release days. The staff met to create some fun activities that revolved around a theme. Baby It's Cold Outside is one example. Activities included ice painting, making ice cream, sliding, glitter snowflakes, and a pom-pom snowball battle. These are projects that everyone from kindergarten to 5th grade can participate in and enjoy together. During the regular school days, we erupted large volcanoes, spent weeks watching the baby eagles being born and raised on the Eagle Cam, had talent shows, and a huge Minute to Win It contest, just to name a few of the fun things we did. This past year, the School Age Care program collaborated with the nutrition department to provide a balanced breakfast for our students. We began with a pilot program at Prairie and Rock and quickly moved towards offering it at all 5 schools. The parents have had a positive reaction to this change, and we are now meeting wellness guidelines, and the students start their day with a great breakfast. As we look forward to the future, we plan on offering something called homework clubs. Many parents have requested that the children be provided with quiet homework space that is also staffed to help with homework. We hope to develop goals and incentives for students who choose to participate in our homework club. Additionally, next year, we hope to add an online registration with the ability for parents to register and pay their statements online. This streamlined process will be a welcome addition to our program. Thanks for your time.
We should probably practice that health and wellness and stand up. Are you getting tired? I'm Amy Hamburg, principal at EP Rock. And I just want to say when Dr. Olette challenged us to present some things this evening, the elementary principals got really nervous because we have built a system where we feel like a child can go to any one of our elementary schools and they're going to have a great education, and we did not want to highlight anything that was different about any of our buildings. But there is uniqueness to our buildings, and I think the more I thought about the things that I wanted to highlight, those come back to HR, to Learning Services, and to the school board, because they aren't equal in all 6 buildings, and the board provides for what we need, and so we get similar results when we talk about end-of-year results. One of the things that we did at Rock, and knowing that our population does have some students that leave and come, about 40 to 50 students go elsewhere at the end of the year, and then we have about the same number enroll. So our enrollment stays fairly stable, but a lot of new kids. And so when we wrote our SMART goals this year, we decided we wanted to recognize that if a student stayed at our school for at least a year, we really do make a difference for a lot of those kids. And so our baseline is much lower, but we've never, when we set our goal, we always set it for 90. So for the last 8 years, our elementary goal at Rock has been the same as every other elementary school, but we decided this year that every teacher would write their goal for making a year's worth of progress in 1 year. And obviously for some of those students, The results are remarkable. They make more than a year's worth of progress, and some of those results show that. But we do that in a few different ways, and one of them is to really focus on the whole child, and that's kind of an expression you may hear, but it really, at Rock, takes a whole team of people to address some of the needs of our kids. And the board has supported all those initiatives. Some of them have been mentioned throughout the evening, so that's really has made a difference for a lot of our students throughout the year. One of them that we decided would be really important is to somehow make sure that we would reach every parent at least twice during the year with a personal contact. So every teacher had that as a goal 2 to 3 times during the year. And that may seem like, well, there's 2 conferences in a year, but to reach those parents that might not feel connected, they might not feel like they're welcome. That was our goal. And we had meetings at coffee shops and at homes. And so we really, teachers took that on as a challenge, and it worked. I think parents feel welcome at EP Rock. Some students are just beginning their years in public school, so to have them feel like they can come into the building and feel welcome is important as they go through school. The other thing that we had as an initiative starting last year was looping classrooms. We've discovered, and research shows, that if a student is feeling connected with a teacher, that they will make considerable progress, and we're just reaping the benefits of some of that. So those teachers stay with their same group of kids for 2 years, and the second year of school is the 181st day of school. And those teachers are very connected. They are showing phenomenal growth for the students in their classes. The last one is our mentor program. So I'm doing a little plug for our mentor program. We have about 60 to 80 adult mentors that come to our school every week. And I think Nick also said he'd be doing that next year. So, but we have directors come. It's a 45-minute-a-week commitment. It started 19 years ago with the banks in Hudson, and it has continued ever since, and it makes a difference for every one of those students and their families. So that's a wonderful initiative that we have at Rock. So thank you for letting us share our differences, and thank you for your support.
Okay, now it's HR department's time. First of all, thank you for this opportunity as well. It's been fun. I like hearing all the highlights from the different departments. So this year, it's certainly been an adventurous and ambitious one for HR, and as detailed in the document in front of you. But at this time, I'll just focus on 3 primary areas: staffing, accountability issues, and salaries, wages. With respect to staffing, top priority of my department is certainly to post and fill vacancies with the best qualified candidates. As of May 27th, we coordinated the posting, filling, and onboarding of 123 certified staff vacancies, 7 administrator vacancies, 21 athletic vacancies, and 110 support staff vacancies during the 15-16 school year. We also coordinated over 120 FMLA and extended leaves, secured staffing replacements for these leaves, and processed leaves pursuant to state and federal law. Then in February, we turned to shift our focus to the 16-17 school year by going through a multi-step comprehensive staffing procedure. We use this procedure to determine staff placements based on retirements, resignations, and variations in student enrollment, to develop recommendations for you all, and then to post and fill those vacancies throughout the spring. Then in terms of accountability, that's another significant area for our department. It's primarily to work with supervisors to enforce the district's policies, procedures, expectations when it becomes necessary to do so. During the 15-16 school year, we conducted over 30 investigations in tandem with the affected administrators when appropriate, resulting in disciplinary actions ranging from reprimands to terminations without one grievance being filed by an employee. Of the approximately 30 investigations, 10 staff will not receive increases for the 16-17 school year, and 12 others are no longer employed by the district. With respect to salaries and wages, the 2015-16 school year was unique in that HR worked with administrators to develop salary and wage increases for 2 years, both the 15-16 and the 16-17 school year. To accomplish this, we conducted multiple comparability analyses in the fall of 2015 and again in the spring of 16 for the different employee groups, ultimately developing varying recommendations based on the comparable data for individual classifications. We then successfully implemented each of the increases once approved by the board. To better explain what this entails, I'll tell you about the past month. It's been a heck of a month. On May 10th, the board approved the increases of salaries and wages. By Friday, May 13th, all 437 certified staff had their 16-17 individual contracts in hand. And by Thursday, June 2nd, over 400 support staff received their 16-17 letters of intent. By June 3rd, about 90 staff who opted into the performance component of TSS received new contracts. And by June 8th, all administrators, supervisors, managers, and coordinators had their addendums. That's almost 1,000 documents. And we verified and signed off on every single contract and letter. So countless hours from my incredibly dedicated staff were required to accomplish these feats. We also certainly began the multi-year implementation of the new certified staff salary structure. We coordinated the learning year opt-in, opt-out process, gathered feedback from on-cycle staff through a survey and through TSS and TAC committees. We set up multiple staff meetings at the buildings to answer staff questions, worked with Dave Grambo through the calibration process, and finalized implementation of the increases, the performance increases, through new processes developed in combination with Tim Erickson and Mark Humlin. No small feat, yet it's all successfully completed. So with all of this under our belt, we are excited for the opportunities that lie ahead for 16-17.
Mr. President, or Mr. Vice President, I just want to say that I haven't watched one of these shows like Ninja Warriors or something, but you remind me of one of the competitors. I'm really eternally grateful for the huge amount of requests that you have fulfilled for this board in terms of data and comparisons and all kinds of spreadsheets. So, and we've caused you a lot of trouble in such short periods of time. But anyway, thank you for all your work.
And I'm not going to fight with this mic. I'm going to move it up a step, and then I'll move back down later for the next group. Dol Schmidt, North Hudson Elementary Principal, and I also just want to thank the board for giving all departments in our buildings opportunities tonight to share some highlights. And when I was thinking about the highlights that I wanted to share, I think about our SMART goal process. I also think about the process that our teachers have with their student learning goals. So those are their classroom goals for the year, and two grade levels that I want to highlight to start with. It's a primary example and intermediate example, but it's because of SMART goal actions, their individual classroom actions, and also the support that we have through our instructional coaches that allow them to do the things that they've done this year for their students. So first I'd like to talk about my kindergarten grade level this year. So these students came in October. They take the PALS assessment, which is a state assessment to look at what literacy skills they have coming in. And we had 11 students that were identified by the state as a need for intervention. Now, as a district, we just look at that as students that need good core instruction, that need to have exposure, but that was about double what we typically have. And so it was a class that we knew we had a lot of needs. And so when my kindergarten teachers dug into what they needed to do, what they learned was they really needed to shift their core instruction. So previously, for example, their K classroom, they would spend a day reviewing, letter identification, letter sounds, review it, move on, and if they need to work with students on those skills, they do it in small group. Well, this year it was really 70-80%, they needed that letter identification, upper, lowercase, needed to know their sounds, needed to know rhyming, so they really had to shift what their core instruction looked like, and they had to go slower so they could go faster later on in the year. And this took a lot of collaboration as a team, looking weekly. What do we need to do to change what all of our students are getting, collaborating with our instructional coach, and then having that support from our Tier 2 reading and math supports in our buildings too. Well, by the end of the year, only 4 students were identified needing intervention for next year. And that just goes to the hard work that they had done, knowing what the students needed compared to what they would always teach. And so that's the first example. An intermediate example is my 4th grade cohort. So they're one of our building's most behaviorally needy grade levels. And so they had good achievement, but not the greatest growth. They had below average growth fall to spring when they were 3rd graders in the area of reading. They're made up of 2/3 boys, And they had the second most minors and majors as far as students in my building, followed by kindergarten, and that's what you typically think. Kindergartners, they're learning about themselves and others and how to get along. But this grade level, when we looked at it, we looked at the growth that we hoped they would have had better in third grade, and also the amount of behaviors. We really thought, well, probably the behaviors are impacting their learning in the classroom. And they had, in the classroom setting in third grade, 40 minors and majors within the classroom setting. And so we brought a team together, a school counselor, instructional coach, media specialist, classroom teachers, and myself, and we looked at, okay, what can we do behaviorally for these students? What can we also do to help engage them better in the classroom to help lower those behaviors too? And so our instructional coach helped with some gender-based books to engage the boys. We looked at what we developed as a positive acknowledgement time. So students that had good behavior on a day, there'd be randomly 2 to 3 times a week where they have some additional free time. And by the end of the year, 88% of the students were getting their PAT time. Students were feeling very, very good about their classroom environment and how respectful it was. Parents were commenting on conferences. Students that always behaved well were feeling good because they're being acknowledged for behaving well. Students that had more difficulties with behavior were also behaving well with the things that we had put in place. And by the end of this year, we had, from fall to spring, above average growth on the map. 98% of our fourth grade students met the year-end target. And more importantly, they're being successful and engaged in school. And so that's the second one I wanted to highlight. The third one, you got to hear about it tonight from my students, and I wanted them to be able to share with you the Shine Bright project. And there's really just 2 things I wanted to share about that. Number one, and I think you were all able to see HSD 2025 living through what they were doing. And also, I would challenge you to go back and take a look at every single graduate learner outcome, because they were all integrated in what they were doing, which is really, really powerful, and that's what we want with our vision. Finally, though, as far as the adult learning for me, and so this project, this passion idea came to me. I didn't know if we could pull it off. I didn't know if it was possible within a year. But I said yes, and the power in saying yes. And so my yes was the first yes. The second yes came from Tim Erickson. So Tim then had to come around, meet, and we needed to decide whether we could move forward. And the second yes came there. And I think it's a powerful piece when you look at all the learning, all the leadership, the opportunities to mentor younger students. So they presented to you tonight. They presented twice to our building. They presented to Leadership Hudson. And so just a really powerful thing when you look at the opportunities we can give students when we say yes. So thanks. I said I would put it back in place.
Thank you. I'm tall, just not that tall. Oh, I see they saved the last and the most for them as the most important one, because we all know good nutrition is essential for learning, and I feel like I should have brought smart snacks along for all of you for all the stuff that we're learning tonight. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, to personally be here to share the highlights from our school nutrition program. As we all know, nutrition is essential to learning, and our child nutrition program assures that all of our students have access to healthy meals that support optimal learning. It's been a rather tumultuous time in school nutrition these past several years as we've navigated our way through several changes in both state and federal child nutrition programming. We've had to assure that all students have at least a half a cup of fruit and or a vegetable on their meal tray, assure that they've gotten 100% of our grains, our whole grain rich, reduce our sodium to 14 milligrams, which is less than a teaspoon, comply with calorie ranges rather than calorie minimums, meaning we had to meet 600 to 800, couldn't go under, couldn't go over on calories, and we had to meet the SMART standards for all school food sold in the school day. And that means all food sold to schools such as a la carte vending, fundraising, school stores, they all must meet similar nutrition guidelines as the school meals. HSD meets all these requirements, and we do receive an additional 6 cents for being certified in the meal, the Healthy Hunger Kids Free Act. Based on these regulations, though, they have had an effect on our meal participation and thereby our financial status. Our meal participation has dropped about 3.5% this last year. Last year it was about 5%. So I take that to mean that we are starting to stabilize and we're starting to grow into the new Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, the changes that were implemented. We kept our meal prices to a minimum of only a nickel this year, and hopefully that will help encourage more participation. Our pricing is still below the average in the area and in the state. We were also able to replace approximately, it's still below the average in this area. The financial picture, our year-to-date revenue expenditures did decrease again by about 3%. We were able to maintain our expenditures to meet the drop in revenue, and this was primarily due to lowering our food costs, but also very efficient use of our labor. Our staff really picked up the challenge to make sure that we reduced any overtime that was needed or kept our hours to a minimum. We've remained and therefore remained balanced over the year and able to do that and still be able to purchase about $60,000 worth of replacement equipment. Other program highlights, we've served about 85,000 of the elementary snacks, which has been increasing every year. We've offered an array of produce of the month samples that included blueberries, kale, collard greens, locally grown apples, roasted cauliflower, to name a few. We've also been able to participate in the schools with some of the nutrition-related challenges, such as Power Up in the elementary schools and Fuel Up to Play in the middle school, and been able to collaborate efforts with the classroom and the lunchroom being a learning environment. Our goals for the 16-17 year are to expand our snack program beyond the produce of the month to a feature of the month, which will include whole grains and plant proteins, along with other fruits and vegetable combinations. Continue to strive to increase our participation with marketing and education opportunities, such as expanding social media and customer satisfaction surveys, and integrate nutrition education in the school environment through our cafeteria promotions and classroom collaborations. And most importantly, continue to maintain the financial health of our school nutrition fund to remain a self-supporting fund. I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity and invite you all for lunch. Thank you.
Just want to recap, we have a lot of great things going on in the district, and taking a moment, I know sometimes this can be a long part of a meeting, but there are so many good things that are going on. There's so many highlights and accomplishments that the people that are best to put those out there for the board are the ones that are sitting out there right now that have presented today. And so I appreciate all of them sticking through, and we're at the 2.5 hour mark almost at the meeting. So I do appreciate them coming through. I'm finishing up my first year here, and I couldn't ask for a better leadership group of people to work with. I mean, they're outstanding in every sense of the word, and the level in which they operate is extremely high. So I definitely do appreciate that.
Thanks, Dr. Nick, and thank you all. It was great to have this opportunity tonight to hear each of you speak. You're the reason we get to rave about our schools in our community. The leadership that you guys bring and demonstrate within and across our district is absolutely incredible. From the time that I've been on this board, for all of the opportunities that we've had to talk about the administrative team and the leaders in this school district, really it's all the work that you guys do every single day that allows us to continue to be proud of what we have here in Hudson. I'm sure the task this evening of keeping it brief might have been interesting. I will say I liked the challenge. Personally, for my career, I've had opportunities to get up and talk and be in front of groups, and it's tough to be brief, especially when you're passionate and you're excited about something. But it is a good skill to have, and it is certainly probably an interesting challenge for you guys to continue to take forward. So thought you guys did great tonight. Thank you for putting as much time and energy as you did into your updates. Appreciate that. Any other comments from the board?
I always have a comment. No, I'm going to give everyone that gave a report tonight exceeds expectations. It's probably not worth anything, but
Talk to HR.
All right, with that, we are going to move into topics for action, but I am going to ask that we just take a quick 3 to 5 minute break, and we will get back in here promptly and finish out with our topics for action for the evening. All right, getting back to business here, we will move to topics for action, and I will take a motion on the consent items.
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent items and that the Director of Financial Services be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $2,453,670.93.
We have
Second.
a motion by Lynn and a second by Sue. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and that then takes us to student handbooks.
So we've already gone over this at the board work session, but we wanted to make sure we took official action on the student handbooks. Primary rationale behind official action on student handbooks is the board going on record saying they support what is in the handbooks, and that we'll work with the administration to uphold the rules and guidelines in which we operate.
Okay.
Are there any other discussion between the board members here? Again, I know that we did have a pretty lengthy discussion and presentation on each of the individual handbooks for elementary, middle school, and high school, the appropriate changes that are going to be taking place. Any additional discussion, questions from the board?
Mr. Vice President.
Rob.
You know, one of the nice changes I think that we saw during our discussion, or heard anyway, was the opportunity for more parent involvement. You know, for opportunity for the parent to sit with their student and make sure they understand the rule book, I think is important. It's a nice change.
Okay. Sue?
Mr. Vice President, I shared an email today with Principal Shoemaker, Superintendent Olette, and Jamie, who's not here tonight. And I know it seems like a very picky, minor thing, but I read the handbook for the high school, and under the area with Code of Ethics, page 71, if anybody wants to go there, it talks about an appeal process for parents and students to follow, and it talks about the fact, no, this is, you know, I'm not a psychiatrist or psych person, but it talks about the fact that I'll just read the sentence. It says, I'm having trouble with the word feel, F-E-E-L. The student or parent guardian must state in a letter why they feel the decision of the Code of Conduct Council is incorrect. And I just wonder, and maybe I'll throw this out to Tony, I just wonder if there isn't a better word there, because the word feel suggests that unlike the district, who has to provide you know, content and supportive evidence, the parent coming in can just say this is how they feel. And I'm just wondering if a word like maybe how they perceive or how they interpret, or something that demands a little bit more on their side in terms of responding to in their appeal. So it's just something that doesn't have to be decided on here, but maybe just give some thought to that as you finalize, is my suggestion.
So if I understand correctly, we are taking action on approving these handbooks this evening, though, correct?
Oh, we are, so this is too late.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily too late. I think to probably make a change of a word or
Okay,
two
maybe
probably isn't going to be.
when we review it next time, perhaps.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's a fair point to bring up. I'm not sure if it really requires any additional action on our part. Dr. Nick, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
If there was
I
be
would
a
agree.
tweak
I
or
mean,
a
we
edit.
we can tweak some of those things. Again, it doesn't. It's not changing the intent of the language. It's not
Right.
changing. You know, if we change from feel to if the parent or student believes that the ruling is incorrect or the decision is incorrect, you know, we can change it and kind of work through that. Tony will work through that with Peg and Steph and make sure we have those things work through there.
Yeah, I think the main thing that I got out of it was that, it seemed to be some proper updates, right? It hadn't been looked at in some time. Also bringing consistency across the elementary schools, I think was a nice enhancement, and just to see the collaborative aspect, which is and already has been taking place for some time. So, from my perspective, the handbooks themselves were probably in need of a good review, but the team spent appropriate time and energy on them. I felt that they were good for us to move forward on, and probably will continue to have some ongoing and regular review, which you probably do actively, correct?
Yes, exactly, Mr. Vice President. And the intent would be for us to bring them back to you every year for review and approval from here on out.
All right. With that, is there any motion?
Mr. Vice President, I move to approve the student handbooks for the elementary, middle, and high schools as defined.
All right. So we got a motion by Rob.
Second.
A second by Lynn. Any additional discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. That brings us to credit card contract, item number C. Are we going to have anybody give us a quick recap on this?
Yeah, Mark's going to cover we got a couple of agreements to do the online credit card payments. So he'll just walk you through. A lot of the information is there that you've already seen before, but it's just running through the agreements now. So Mark, I'll let you take it.
So what you're seeing in front of you is a little more summarized than what we worked through in the board work session, but a lot of the similar information. I could just give you a quick recap again, kind of how we got to this point. We had a group of team members that kind of spanned across multiple departments within the school district that wanted to kind of take a look at different options for online payments and accepting payments that way and utilizing the system for registration and things like that. So what we have in front of you here are 3 different vendors that we had narrowed it down to when we were looking at this. And one of the primary goals that we were trying to accomplish was to have one system, a very comprehensive system that would span across district-wide and would be able to integrate with all of our different systems that run nutrition services or school-age care or community ed. So that was one of our main goals, and we wanted this to be easy to use. We wanted it to be friendly for not only members in our community that might be using it for a community ed class or parents, whether it's for registration or school-age care, and then also easy for our staff to use as well. We wanted this to really find ways that we could gain some efficiencies with reducing paperwork and things along those lines. So that's kind of how we've gotten to this point. You've seen some of this information already, and I'll talk a little bit about the different vendors we looked at. The one that we're going to recommend tonight for action would be FeePay, and that's in that first column there. As you can see, they're a little more expensive than the other 2, but our team felt that they were going to provide the best service that we were looking for. I'll highlight some things in a second on them, but I just want to talk quickly about Skyward and RevTrack. The reason that one we're not recommending is that it would require us to have more than one portal for the parents or community members to utilize. So that was kind of a real key thing we really wanted to accomplish, was to have one place to go, and that doesn't quite do it within that system, so we didn't want to go to that option. And then Affinity, Wordware, EduTrack does create that one portal, but there are quite a bit of changes we would have to make within our current systems. Primarily a very large one would be our nutrition services, when it comes to our point of sale and our current software that they're running, we would have to completely overhaul all that and kind of do a new system. And as far as the look and feel to that one, our team didn't feel that one was quite as clean or quite as efficient as FeePay. So the reason we're going with FeePay is they really did kind of meet all of our criteria and what we were looking for. They provide that critical component of that seamless integration, and it really allows all of our systems to talk to each other. We don't have to make that many changes as far as the software we run for nutrition services or school-age care, and we're going to be using this for community ed as well and athletics. It really creates that integration that we were looking for. It creates the one portal, and it really was very simple and clean. Overall, it's going to add a convenience, we feel, to parents to community members that we're going to want them to use this system. We want it to look nice and be intuitive for them to learn as well. I was able to, after we had presented at the board work session, I was able to talk to a few more districts, and some in particular that had worked with some of these, like multiple vendors here, and had very glowing reviews to say about fee pay. They felt that it was a little bit higher price point, but the service you got, the look and feel of their system was superior to a lot of the other ones they had worked with. And some other good comments I thought that they mentioned was that they were very open to adapting to the needs of their district. So in our case, we're probably unique in how we're structured compared to other school districts, and everybody runs the exact same systems. They said they were very open to making changes and adjusting to what would fit your particular needs. Sometimes you'll run into vendors that will potentially, they'll need a larger part of their book of business and before they'll make a custom change within their software. And they said they were very open to doing some of those type changes. So that was a primary reason why we felt, again, additional points that make us feel confident that it's going to meet what our expectations were. So if you guys have any further questions between now and then, welcome those now.
Mr. Vice President.
Rob.
Comment, then I guess a quick question. One of the things I liked from our work session that you mentioned, Mark, was from a point of sale perspective, not only will this do all of the things that we're accustomed to, but it'll help us from a concessions standpoint, clothing purchase, potentially theater tickets maybe at some point as we add these modules. And it's going to minimize our liability with having free cash just floating around. Fair?
Absolutely. That's one point I forgot to mention earlier, so I'm glad you brought it up. But as far as the exposure of handling cash, handling checks, the fraud, potential fraud that comes with that, when you think about there's quite a bit of cash if you've had students in school that that is potentially needed, whether it's at a game or any kind of a point of sale that we could potentially reduce as well. So for us, we're looking at that as kind of a phase 2 or step 2 to this. This is going to be a pretty large undertaking for us to try and get this up and running. We have lofty intentions of trying to get this in place for registration next year, which would be mid-July. We want to try to get it to that point if we can. We feel confident we can do things like that. And again, that would reduce that registration process where parents are coming in, having to write checks, handle cash for our staff. It's going to gain some efficiencies, and that point of sale is going to be, we see this as a very positive thing for the school district.
Okay. And then my question, when we look at Affinity, you had said that Affinity and fee pay, they both have that single user interface.
Correct.
Would it be more expensive, because if nutrition and perhaps some of these other services had to convert, that would, of course, would add probably one-time costs or additional ongoing costs that aren't accounted for here. Is that fair?
There would be some things we would add in there. Most of what we have in there is pretty close to what that fee would be. As far as changing over some of those point of sales, we would probably have some additional costs that would come with that. I don't know exactly what it would be, but it's probably fair to say we would have some additional expenses that would come with that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Just one from my perspective. The timing of this again?
So for us, if we can move ahead with it, if we're at the action tonight, potentially we could have this, for like the online registration that happens in July, district-wide.
Yep.
There's certain registration fees that come with that there'd be potential to, have it in place for that piece of it, not necessarily every department, but we could focus on that part first and potentially have that in place.
And the length of the contract is it just a 1 year?
It's just kind of ongoing until we would, there's not like it's a 1 or 2 year. We have 30 days to cancel at any point. So it's not necessarily something you'd be taking action on every year or 2 years. It would kind of be in place going forward.
Okay. Opportunities for negotiations. I mean, if it becomes easier once it's been implemented and, then we've kind of been up and running.
Yep.
I mean, is that, I'm just curious from a contractual perspective, if you have opportunities to go back at some point in time and renegotiate. I know we've got variable rates
Sure.
in here that, we may want to at least discuss negotiating at some point in time, not right now.
Absolutely.
I understand that we feel this is the right decision. And I get where you're coming from. I understand the ease of use, right?
Right.
Making sure that it's not a bunch of different systems that people are going into, and from the work and effort that you guys put into it, it seems as though they're kind of head and shoulders above some of the other solutions that you were reviewing. But that said, to kind of have an evergreen contract, if you will, where you don't have the option to go back and maybe revisit some of these things, just makes it a little bit more cloudy later on. So
Sure.
it'd just be one point of maybe reference there for you to think about as we close this out. But I'm not concerned about the decision to move forward or your recommendation with fee pay. So if there isn't any other discussion, I'll open it up for a motion.
Mr. Vice President, I move that we contract with fee pay to acquire our credit card process.
We have a motion by Sue.
Second.
Second by Lynn. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, so we have two final action items on the agenda here. The secondary space board representatives. We talked about this in our last meeting where we discussed that there will be some ongoing bi-weekly meetings with our architects and other administrators throughout the entire process. I think it's going to be every other Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And with that, I'll maybe just have you speak a little bit more about some of your thoughts here, Dr. Nick, and we can work through this action item.
Yep. So we've started talking about this, about continuing to have another layer of oversight through the process, but also being able to move a little bit more agilely through decisions, whether it be change orders or other things that are going to come up. This would be a secondary space committee, board committee. We'd be looking for 3 members only, because once we go above a quorum, what ends up happening is then we're having a regular board meeting.
Right.
Once we have 4. So 3 members only. What I think is board policy 7500 kind of governs this. There's a choice between, calling it an ad hoc temporary task force or a temporary committee. But really what it talks about is the purpose, and when the purpose and function is fulfilled, the temporary committee will then be discharged, and kind of work through that. The ad hoc task force, that's temporary committee, is approved by the majority of the board. The board president shall appoint the chairperson for each task force. The task force shall have a defined purpose and timeline. Membership criteria will be determined for the specific task, and will generally but not always include members of the community. So this task force, or committee, temporary committee, however you want to look at it, would be primarily the 3 board members, district administration, building administration, and then the architects and construction managers. I mean, I think the voting members on the task force, or when it comes to change orders, things like that, would be the 3 board members, obviously, but obviously they wouldn't be doing that in isolation. This group would meet every other Tuesday, starting on 6/28, so it'd be 2 weeks from tomorrow. And they would meet probably now every other Tuesday until, originally the architect said until May of 2017, but I think that's probably just primarily with the architect stuff. Probably about that time is when it'll shift from an architect focus to more of a CM focus on the meetings. I would anticipate it'll meet every other Tuesday starting at 6/28 until probably August of 2019. Is probably a more appropriate date, with cancellations as needed. Obviously, different times, if every other Tuesday falls on certain holidays or breaks and things like that, we would make adjustments. The time would be from 4 to 5 in the afternoon. The goal would be to get it all squeezed in from 4 to 5 in the afternoon. Some meetings would be very brief, might only be a half hour in length. Some meetings could be a little bit longer than that. Again, the types of decisions and things that would be happening with that group, several things. It would be looking at having that group or that committee approve change orders up to $10,000. When you're, that sounds like a lot for a temporary or an ad hoc committee to approve, but when you're talking about $94 million worth of projects, there's a lot of different change orders. Some are for the good and some are for the bad as far as the positive or the negative. But since our whole board only meets on a monthly basis, to be able to be a little bit more nimble and be able to make those decisions at least twice a month, I think would help us. We'll see how it goes as we talk to the attorney today. Her thoughts were, this committee and the board may say 10,000 is too low of a limit. They might want it moved up to 20,000. Or they may say, okay, we're going to give administration the authority to approve change orders up to the first 10,000, and anything from 10,000 to 20,000 goes to this committee. Anything over 20,000 goes to the entire board. But that's something that we can continue to shape that process as we talk to the attorney, depending on how it goes. So we can kind of see how it all ebb and flows as we work through that. Another thing with that group would be a large piece would be the community engagement piece and making sure that we're staying on top of engaging with the community. That process started, about 14 months ago in February, I think, last year, or 15 months ago. So I think it's important for us to continue to engage the community. So that group would also be the 3 individuals from the board would be the ones giving the secondary space presentations as it relates to board information, community information at the board meetings, and then also having that group of individuals help us in with some of the different informational presentations and things along those lines. With that being said, I think it would be good to have some continuity, whether it be the board members are, if you want to be on it, I think you need to be on it and be consistent about being on it, so that there's some continuity there. You get to understand and work with the architects, with the CMs, and you understand where people are coming from. Not that it couldn't change on an annual basis, but we'd want it to not change every couple months. I mean, we want somebody to commit for the most part to be able to do these things. I think it would be good to possibly have either Jamie or Bruce, one or the other, being that they are part of the community engagement process. On the last, the pre-referendum stuff might be something good to have on. I don't know if either one of them want to do it, but I think that would be a benefit. I think the other thing is that we would post all these meetings as if a meeting or a quorum of the board could exist. So similar to what we did with our committee structure, where if additional board members that aren't on the committee wanted to come and attend the meetings, similar to what we did with the old committee structure, we'd make sure that all the meetings are posted to let people know that that's a possibility and so that could happen. So with those things being said, what I would do is I would ask for questions, discussions, or just kind of entertain how we'd like to do this.
Mr. Vice President?
Yes.
I thought the committee structure said that the president selects the people to serve.
Well,
the board policy.
Well, according to Board Policy 7500, what the board has to determine, is it a temporary committee or is it a temporary task force? If it's a temporary task force, then it's a majority of the board that sets it, and the board president shall appoint the chairperson. If it's a temporary committee, then the board president appoints all of the members and the chairperson. So, when you look at the two different, I have it in front of me, that the board sets the charge of both of these things, so you would give the parameters of how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they're a committee or a task force set by the board, you can give both the power to approve change orders, or you can give those types of things. Yeah, I mean, we can do either way, whatever you'd like to do.
Maybe we should discuss that first. If you guys are okay with that, let's discuss our thoughts around this being a task force or a temporary committee. A temporary task force or a temporary committee? What are your thoughts?
So if it's, excuse me, Mr. Vice President, if it's a temporary committee, then we'd operate like we have with the committees that we just dissolved.
No,
Would it be
Jamie
like
would essentially appoint a chairman and then the other
Two representatives.
two other representatives to participate. So
He
they
would
would be
appoint-
appointed by Jamie
Okay,
in that case, as our president.
all right.
Versus the task force, I think we would need to just work on who it would be as a board. And if we have more than 3, then we're going to need to work through what's the best way to manage and handle that. So thoughts on this? Do we want to leave this up to, I mean, we don't have Sandy here tonight. Of course, we don't have Jamie here tonight either. But I
Well, we're
still
not
think we
looking
can talk through this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President. We're
Yeah.
not looking to formally form anything tonight. What we're looking for is direction on task force and or committee.
I
No, we're asking for
believe
secondary
it
space
was,
representatives.
yeah, to have these people determined tonight. Now, again, with Jamie and Sandy not here.
I'd like to move to table this until our work session.
Agreed.
Mr.
Carrie?
Vice President?
Yes.
Unrelated to which form it takes, obviously this will at some point change cyclically, but do you want to have these meetings every time after, initially it's going to be after a regular board meeting or a work session, the way it's starting out?
Yeah, so what ends up happening is they're tied to when we have all-day meetings with the architects and or CMs. So what happens is, so like for example, tomorrow we start at 8:30 in the morning at the high school. We'll finish up about 4:30, and it's just set up to be the last meeting of those day of meetings, so that we can recap everything that happened that day and work through that. And then, that group may, those individuals that are on that may be a part of then during our board work sessions that are essentially 2 weeks later, presenting to the rest of the board. What are they hearing? What kind of feedback do they want? How do they want to move forward with it?
Any other comments? Rob, you say that we should table. Lynn, you agree to table? Yeah, but I guess Lynn said it, Rob agreed, right?
So, Lynn motion, Rob second.
I wasn't taking motions at this point in time. I guess it's still in discussion at this point in time.
We're just tabling the structure of whatever this,
The
3 people
decision
will-
of who the
Right.
people will be, correct.
Okay.
Couple of, Sue, any thoughts from you on this?
No, the only thought I had was I was just curious who might be on our group, might be interested in being on it, but if
So
we're
fair.
going to use a system with, like Jamie appointing, then maybe we need to wait. I don't know.
Well, I don't know that necessarily needs to happen. I think we have to have the discussion around whether or not this is a temporary committee or a temporary task force. That sets the tone, right? I think just to maybe build off a couple of comments that Dr. Nick had in terms of participants, okay? So few different ways this could be done if there's more than 3 people interested, okay? Sandy has expressed interest, I believe.
Yes.
She did in her previous meeting.
Yes.
Rob, I think you expressed interest. Sue, you talked a lot about it in our last meeting. You're interested in as well?
I sent an email to Dr. Olette and Jamie expressing my interest.
Okay. Certainly myself, I have interest. I was participating in the community engagement process. And I do believe Jamie also has interest, so that does put a number of us. Carrie?
I could go either way.
Okay. All right. That's okay. Lynn?
No.
Okay. That's okay. Hey, that's it's I think to Lynn's point, it's a commitment, right? Even the community engagement process, the PST meetings, they were quite regular. Mr. Grambo, were they not? I was saying that the PST meetings required a fair amount of time. That would be accurate. Yeah. This too would require some time. And a couple of other comments I think that are important for us to think about, okay? One, if we sign up for it, have to be there. You know, I know we talked about phone calls last time, but I don't know that that would necessarily do us justice, nor the committee justice. So, not to say that you can't miss one, right? Or that there may not be a couple that you can miss, but maybe we put something in place that if you can't make a certain amount, that you may be replaced. You know, and that could be something that we could agree upon as a board. So that might be something for us to consider. I also am curious about the length of time for this committee, if it's not maybe something that we review annually, and come back, and maybe if there's someone who's very interested in being a part of this and somehow they aren't able to be on that committee, that in a year could we not review and possibly reshuffle the deck, so to speak, and engage others? Because it's not as though that the board won't be following along and won't be engaged in understanding what's going on. It just may give someone a chance if their role changes at work, if they're
Not reelected?
not reelected, if they're not able to make as many meetings as they hoped. I mean, there's all different things that could come about. So maybe just some parameters on how we would change that or relook at it. Maybe it doesn't change at all, but I think that listen, we've got a lot of people on this board that are very caring about this project and committed and want to see it successful. So,
Mr. Vice President?
Yes.
My only point about tabling that is that I think it would be important to hear what Sandy and Jamie have to say about it as well. This is such an important decision and such an important role to serve. I think having their opinions involved in this discussion would be important.
Okay.
Agreed.
You guys agree with that? Sue, you agree as well?
Yes, I think Lynn's point's very well taken. It feels incomplete to me not to have their presence here to comment.
Okay. All fair comments. Any other points you want to make before I take a motion on this around the premise of temporary versus task versus time frame, et cetera? Or just move forward with the motion?
Well, Mr. Vice President, I think your point is well taken as far as the temporary thing. I think the flip side of that is just the consistency within the group. I think it's important that if in fact there is commitment and we're able to make sure that we have a regular schedule, people are able to participate, that group stays as the same as it can. Otherwise, it's just going to lead to some disconnect later on, my opinion.
I think it would be good, as Rob said, that consistency. I think it would make sense in reviewing whomever was on there after the 1 year period, if we wanted to change up membership, but at least keeping one consistent member out of the three, I think is always good. So if you said, okay, this is really a really long, it's a long temporary, either task force or temporary committee, because it's going to be about a 3-year project. So as some of you said, some may continue to be on the board, some may not. But I think it would be good that we could look at it on an annual basis, and we could even set it up that every June you're reappointing members to this temporary task force or board, and kind of work through it that way as well, because that would allow then if there is a change in members of the board after the April election every year, it gives a May meeting, and then you would have a June appointment that way. The big issue will be for us. Is we will probably then just not have this committee or this task force meet on the 28th of June. We would have their first meeting be probably the 12th of July, because we wouldn't have the ability to post the meeting properly if you didn't make the decision until 8 or 9 o'clock at night on the Monday before the meeting. It's supposed to happen at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We wouldn't make our 24-hour deadline. Because we'd have to put in there what exactly this is. Is it a task force? Is it a temporary committee meeting? So not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination, but as soon as we can get the board on board with part of this, we want to make sure we do that.
Yeah, agreed. And totally respect everybody's opinion to make sure that Sandy and Jamie are part of the conversation. I'm sure that they both would love to be a part of this conversation. So I'll take a motion.
Mr. Vice President, I move to table the Secondary Space Board representatives' discussion for our task, or our special board meeting.
Second.
Motion by Lynn, second by Rob. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, and that brings us to our final topic for action, the superintendent contract extension. So just maybe start this one off. If you guys all recall, we've had a number of conversations about the performance by Dr. Nick here and the work that we've seen over his first year being engaged in the Hudson School District. And as we all know, we had a lot of discussions to work with Dr. Nick on his compensation package and also the timing of that compensation package. And guess maybe just open it up here for any discussion, comments, or anything else, and then we'll talk about the time frame, which I believe is through the 2017-2018 calendar year that we would be looking for a motion on for extending Dr. Nick's contract.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Any other discussion? I know we've had a number of lengthy discussions on this in terms of performance. We've all had very great things to say about Dr. Nick, the work that he's done here, as well as the ongoing initiatives and activities that we have, getting the referendum passed, and a number of other items. But I'll open it to the board for comments.
Mr. Vice President, you know, with Nick being here, I think just from a community outreach, in just that item by itself has made a night and day difference for our community. I think his presence has been a key reason why our referendum had the success that it did. You know, great educator, great for our kids, and looking forward to working with him into the future.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Mr. Vice President,
Lynn?
I think Nick's performance in his role was highlighted with the educators that we saw here that came before us today, and that body of work that happens at our district. So I think in our work session, when we reviewed Dr. Ouellette's performance, we were very, very thorough, and we had an expansive list of things that we reviewed and talked about as a board. And I'm thrilled to have you here. I'm very proud of the work that you've done, and I mean, just tonight's meeting, you look at that meeting and you reflect back on all of that work. Wow, nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other additional comments? I will just make one and then open it up for a motion, but just from the time that we all unanimously made the decision to bring you on board here, I think we couldn't have had a better outcome here the last year, and excited about to see what's coming up in the next couple of years. I think the compensation package that we put together brought forth a competitive plan, and we hope that you are excited about that and see the commitment that we're making as a board to keep you and your family, your kids, and others excited about the things that we have got going on here in Hudson. So thanks for all your commitment.
Absolutely. Thank you.
With that, I will open it up for a motion to extend the superintendent contract for the 2017 through the 2017-2018 calendar year.
Mr. Vice President, I move that we extend Dr. Nicholas Ouellette's contract for the year 2017-2018.
Second.
We have a motion by Sue, a second by Carrie. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. I will take a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Lynn, second by Rob. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.